medical study on the effects of marijuana use confirms that everyone knows you're high and that you'll most likely never stop feeling like this.
Your parents know you're high. Your friends know you're high. Strangers on the street know you're high.
Welcome to Everyone Knows You're High. Hosted by Uncle Kalei.
You're gonna never come back, all that stupid shit.
And Uncle Eric.
If I could retreat away.
Yeah, you should definitely try that.
This is forever. This is the new reality.
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Ready, and that was a weak ass.
Would you learn how to slap?
That reminds me of one time I went to a strip club and the stripper was slap my ass and I was like, fuck yeah. And I did it. It was the weakest slap I ever fucking.
You did the Brett Favre clap.
It was like, nah. It was like she moved an inch closer when I wasn't ready. And it just fucking didn't land well. But anyway.
It was all forearm on the clap. Dude, we kicked it off perfectly. Fuck yeah.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Everyone Knows You're High. Thank you again for joining us. Fucking today's guest, we have fucking Sustainable Nutrients, the homie fucking Jason, joining us in beautiful Waipahu. And joining me as always is the incomparable grow guru, Kalei.
What's up, guys?
Fuck. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys.
Heck
Yeah.
Welcome to Oahu Garden Supply.
Yeah. Second time here, right?
Yep, second time here.
Nice, dude. I got
I'm
to chop
always
it
excited.
up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That was awesome, man. You came over, you spit some knowledge, explained yourself really well, and really interested in picking your brain tonight, man.
Yeah, Mahalo, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep you guys entertained. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Hopefully we keep you entertained, not just pull out your hair.
Yeah. It's already gone. So
Hopefully you don't regret the decision of coming on this podcast.
These guys drag
We got a couple weeks till this comes out, so if you get a change of heart, we can. No. It should be fun. I think we'll be fine. Fucking yeah. So let's fucking get into Sustainable Nutrients. Is your business or company, right?
yeah. So I'm with Sustainable Nutes. I'm the founder. We make organic liquid fertilizers out of natural upcycled sources. Pretty much, we're talking 100% organic when we're talking organic. We utilize things as upcycled natural and wild caught fish scraps, as well as plant manure or green manure from plants and plant parts of various different plants that we utilize for their, exceptional benefits, providing silica, providing other minerals and vitamins and things that are necessary for abundant plant life. We also utilize molasses, and molasses is more of a microbe food, a carb to kind of energize them to do what they have to do. But we use composting, we use fermentation, digestion, and then we triple filtrate before we package all of our products. So
That's what's up.
Wait, I heard you say plant manure.
So plant manure green manure
Green manure
is almost like your green waste, essentially. We use organic-based green waste. Sometimes it could be like bananas. We're not just talking, the banana peel or just the banana itself as the actual fruit. We're talking the entire banana tree or banana plant.
Right, so the leaves that fall off and die.
Or
Actual fruit, right?
Everything. We utilize as much as possible. We'll take, veggies, the entire plant, and just depending, on the plant, what's available in season. That's how we go out and how we kind of diversify. We try to stick to more of our organic, farmers and things to kind of help them with the upcycling. I'm really big component on composting, making sure that you compost on your land, but as times have changed, and especially with the rat race we're living in, a lot of farmers don't have the time to wait for composting. So most times, they'll throw it and leave it, and it stays there forever. There's been plenty of farms I've gone to when old compost piles are sitting in the back that haven't been touched or turned in years,
Right.
So we try to do our part, help them out. We clean up their land so it helps them to be able to have more space for their cultivation purposes.
Gotcha.
While we're, utilizing and upcycling to provide more nutrients. Providing, more nutrients kind of limits our tenacity to go out and pillage off the land. So we're
Right.
not going and taking minerals. We're not scraping off all the avian guanos and things because
Gotcha.
we want to balance the ecosystem as much as possible. Leave what can be there to be sustained for the next generations to come. So
Hence sustainable nutrients.
sustainable
da,
news.
da, da.
Yeah.
So explain your practices as far as being sustainable and using your green waste and your harvested, plant matter, selected, specifically in time. Explain that in contrast to Master Cho's KNF.
So I'm only slightly familiar with Korean natural farming and Master Cho. I've studied different forms and practices of indigenous or natural farming, from the people, whether it be background or whether you learn from others, But the biggest thing is that the main ideology behind it is going to be fermentative practices, essentially allowing anaerobic microbes to undergo fermentation as well as aerobic microbes, but it all depends on the environment. It depends on the crop that you're using. So big example here in Hawaii, we have the kalo. Old practices for the kalo and the lo'i was to take the hano grass. Hano grass are those little short greens that are edible that usually go around the pit, they're very water loving. Take those, pick them out, Korean natural farming, you take the tops. That's because that's where a lot of the lactic acid bacteria,
Right.
a lot of the activation of apical meristems, auxins, gibberellins that are going to be naturally produced and synthesized, they're kind of oriented,
Okay.
on more of these regions of the plant. Other values, they utilize the whole plant because the whole plant has something to offer.
Got you.
Things move, things mobilize throughout the plant.
Yep.
The plant synthesizes in different processes. So it makes sense to utilize as much as possible versus as little as possible.
Right.
But it depends on culture, background, and upbringing.
Right.
But taking this, stumping it into the lepo, into the lo'i, putting it beneath the water, beneath the soil, activates fermentation, And this kind of pocket, the mud in itself, limits or pretty much takes away that of the oxygen supply, and
Gotcha.
the water around it saturates. So you're left with those microbes that are either facultative aerobes, which are essentially air-breathing microbes that can operate and work in lack
Dual
of oxygen.
purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you have straight up anaerobic microbes
Right,
that need
right.
no oxygen whatsoever to go under fermentative
Right.
processes. And they're
Oh, no.
Yeah.
A quick question. So fermentation, explain that to people who really don't know what fermentation is, and kind of like layman's term, the fermentation, because KNF has fermentation, but it's used off of osmotic pressure, right? So they use the
Exactly.
brown sugar to strip. Explain the difference of fermentation and the two methods.
Because I thought fermentation was just fucking letting shit sit and rot, pretty much.
That's exactly what
Pretty
it is.
Okay,
much
so
that's
cool.
what it is.
Cool. So I
Yeah.
have the layman's understanding, but yeah, go ahead.
What 101, just let it sit. When you smell it, that's usually letting you know that it's undergoing fermentation. When
Got you.
the smell goes from being that pungent to that nice sweet, sweet sour, or that hindsight of that ethanol, the ethyl alcohols
the
that are kind
alcohol.
of trace Elling, that's how you really know that fermentation is kind of at this completion.
Mhm.
You can go through lactic acid fermentation or ethanol fermentation. There can be ammonium fermentation as well, methylene fermentation to produce ammonia and different things of that caliber. So it just depends on which process it goes. But just the basics, is just allowing something to sit long enough. Using sugars is in itself for KNF, the osmotic pressure extraction technique, and it would be this similar to anything, science class back in the day.
Right.
You have a solution, right? You have, let's say, water, and then let's say you have a solution where it's a bunch of sugar and water. You add something to the plain water, what happens? It slowly leaches, or it doesn't leach right away. You add something to the sucrose water, the sucrose outweighs the nutrients that are on the inside of the material, the membranes, so it allows extraction.
Right. Area of high concentration, going to low
Low
concentration. Gotcha.
So that's pretty much the relevance of what they're using for the osmotic extraction. But
And osmotic, you're referring to osmosis?
The opposite way. So instead of it going from like passing through like high concentration to a low concentration,
Yeah.
it's going the opposite way. Correct?
low to high.
Low to high. So even though it already has a lot in there, it's taking more.
It's taking everything
It's
out.
taking it all out.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha, okay.
So it allows for it to kind of almost, the imagery you can have is like something dehydrating.
Mhm.
you know,
Concentrated.
Yeah. It's so much, we have ions in our body, we have salts in our body, but if we drink salt, what happens? We start to shrivel up and dry.
Right.
So it's almost the same effect that we're seeing with osmotic extraction.
Got you.
But these, sugars, simple sugars, monosaccharides, polysaccharides, fructose, sucrose, you have it. those sugars are enabling the microbes. They're feeding, energizing them to kind of do what they got to do. So now they're able to displace molecules and compounds to reassociate them, so you're getting different forms. You know, you have more available nitrogens, you have your nitrites or nitrates versus your ammonium, urea, and the smallest compounds are on the acceptances as it gets converted, because it goes from urea down the chain with the microbe activation.
Got you.
Microbes will take the urea, break it down, and produce ammonia, which then goes to ammonium, you know. So it's all about the relevance of what you're pulling away. When you're doing regular fermentation, I focus more on the extraction process. So I consider KNF to be very beneficial, but at the same time, it's slow going. It can be, you know, for the process to make your inputs and the things that you need.
Fish amino acids takes about a year, right?
Exactly, exactly. So utilizing the sugars for their processes of energizing the microbes that are going to do their natural ubiquitous job of breaking down this material from, you know, heavy duty Lego block stand to just a single Lego piece is what we're after with just a single fermentation.
Got you.
Yep.
Got you. Okay. Because a lot of people, like, the misconceptions, you know, they read the KNF book, you know, and they follow it wholeheartedly. You're bringing an aspect of, this is a scientific explanation to what you're reading, you know, because, like, it's one to read a recipe. It's, you know, another thing to, like, understand why you're doing that recipe. You know, the knowledge, the deeper knowledge, and that's where, like, when I read it, in all due respect to KNF, the scientific aspect hasn't been explained to people that want to learn it, you know. So when there is processes done, and you can see where people derive in their methodology in, you know, organic, sustainable agriculture, you can see where they would pick and choose where to go. Like, you know, Master Cho's, some people would follow him like it's the Bible, you know, and without any question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to question that shit, because, I mean, if you run into a problem, there's no replicating that. You know, it's like you're lost, you're treading water. If you have a scientific explanation behind it, it's a lot easier to replicate your, like, ferments, and, you know, even like your result. You know what your inputs are, so you know what your results are, and having that, you know, breakdown is kind of super important to farmers all around the world.
So it's like a KNF, kind of like a fucking cult, or what?
That's a derogatory way to put it, my friend.
I mean, people following it blindly, not quite. I have no clue what the fuck.
It's not a cult.
All right. I know it's a farming, like a method of doing a thing, but it's like, when people start not questioning and just following it blindly, it sounds kind of culty.
Right. I mean, it definitely works, and the heart's in the right place, right? Sustainability is our main goal. The lowest impact that humans could have on the environment is pretty much where everyone's after, right, with this whole organic farming. So I think that is enough for people to follow it blindly because of the message it has. Right. It. But we want people to be successful in this. You know what I mean? We don't want people to jump into this and, you know, your newts is fucking fine, but if people want to, like, hey, I got a small urban garden, I want to do it myself. I mean, you can read up on it, but having the methodology backed by science would be the proper way to do it. And that's where I want to bring into this, because I love KNF and I think people really can benefit from it. Your method too, you know, I honestly favor your method over strict KNF, because you can replicate it. You can explain it to me. You know what I mean? It's good for a vast demographic. It's not like, okay, I can't have fish amino acids in my apartment on the 10th floor or ferment that. You know what I mean?
It's tough. You know, it smells. I've been one of those people that had stuff fermenting out on the lanai, and my neighbors around me, you know, give you stink eye in the elevator. Like,
we know that's you. Fish.
I was gonna ask, is like that a practice that you could do anywhere? Like, and obviously I got my answer, but like in apartment buildings and shit, and like condos, fucking.
You can do anything you want anywhere. It's all about your mindset for wanting to accomplish. You know, a lot of people are interested, and then it's the limit of what you have for resources. I remember in the Big Island, you know, when I used to apprentice with some guys at Natural Korean Farm. You know, we're up early in the morning, going and picking all the plant tops from around them. They grew certain plants that was recommended, you know, under the KNF principles. And I would always kind of question that, like, oh, why we use this plant? Oh, well, it has oxalic acids. It has this. It has that. Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Rad.
But what about this oxalis right here?
Right,
This
right.
grows invasively in Hawaii everywhere. You know, it looks like a little clover on the ground. You taste it. The white sap is almost like that bitter, sour taste that has
Okay.
to it. That's oxalic acid, essentially. Why are we
Not using that instead of what we're picking now.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Because at the same time you're clearing that from the area too, while fucking using and chopping it up to make
Yeah.
fermenting.
I mean, kill two birds with one stone is pretty
Right.
much what we're after here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, even on the urban landscape, I want to go and fucking. I got a lot of food scraps, waste. Why not turn it into something positive? You know, like you take that extra step before just dumping into the trash can. Compost it. You know, maybe you don't have a garden, but someone else might. You know,
So composting is just when you throw your leftover bio fucking waste in a bin and let it sit.
In a bin, let it sit outside in a pile, turn it over after so long. You know, if it's real good, it'll start to cook in the inside because of the mesophilic microbes that are in there. Mesophilic means that they can handle that middle ambient temperature. They don't
Gotcha.
have to go too high. You know,
Right.
they can deal with the fluctuations from like room temperature to a little lower, you know. Obviously, freezing happens. That's when you have microbe activity kind of limits and stops.
right.
But yeah, good piles, you know, if you take care of them, you nurture them right way. And just because they're composting doesn't mean that the activity of your microbes is going to be long lasting or in longevity. You actually have to feed your pile too. So new fresh materials. The whole idea is that you're feeding it carbon and nitrogen.
Gotcha.
Nitrogen is to feed your microbes. Your carbon is the active substrate. So it helps to hold the material as it's breaking down.
Right.
Yeah.
What about inoculation on your pile, like an EM1 inoculation or whatever you would suggest, and what would you suggest as
What
an
is
inoculation?
What does inoculation mean? Sounds
set-
like you want to give it a vaccine.
Let's stay away from that.
So inoculation is just almost like, you know, anything oriented with checking when you go to the doctor to see if you're sick. They're taking a swab or an amount of a microorganism that's out there already in the environment, and we're bringing it and we're going to capture it, and then we're going to multiply it under our own supervision and control versus that of natural, you know,
Right,
regulation.
It's like SpaceX
Yep.
colonizing Mars.
Exactly. And that's an inoculation. You know,
Yeah.
we're ourselves an organism that are essentially transporting ourselves via vessel to infect and you know, change the other planets too. So
And if you believe in panspermia, then we were just a little microbe that came here on a fucking asteroid during the chaotic time and formation of the Earth.
yep.
But anyway,
We'll save that for another podcast.
Nah, that's fine. Yeah.
But about
But I understand what you're saying. So you're like taking it and kind of like almost like how you propagate another plant. You're kind of just multiplying that specific microbe activity.
Exactly.
happening.
And you're just, you know, once you get them, you get a few colonies, and then you're just budding them together. Budding's the action in
Right.
which they're mating and splitting, essentially,
right,
you
right.
know. And then not to go into the crazy sciences and the nerd, but, you know, different microbes interact with different microbes. You know, it's either symbiosis, it's competition. You know, they don't even care; they're just neutral to each other.
Right.
Mhm.
But then, depending on what metabolites and different things that they're secreting out into their environment, they can coexist and work
Yep.
together in this almost biosphere. of their
Symbiotic.
own.
Can you
relationship with
control
each
that?
other.
So you can,
You
you
can?
know, bleach. No.
You gotta-
Fire.
You may have to perform a couple genocides along the way, but yeah, it can be maintained. No, can you though?
but
Like
in-
parachute?
Yeah, in all honesty, you can control it. You know, varying. Don't use bleach. Really, you don't want to put chlorine in your compost or affecting your microbes. But things like hydrogen peroxide, you can give your plants hydrogen peroxide. You might put it on your media if you see it as like a pest resistant or something like that,
Gotcha.
or a pest aid. You could use it to help oxygenate the soil, as you know, H2O2 hydrogen peroxide gives
Right.
an extra oxygen and supplies you with water as well.
Because that's all it is, right? It's just extra oxygen molecule attached to an HO2, right?
It's just a radical. Yep.
Right. Got you.
And I mean, you can essentially control it like that. Otherwise, it's pH. You know, if you take the pH down to about a 3.8 realm, that's when you slow pretty much almost down to a null microbe activity.
They're pretty resilient then, no?
Yeah, but the only microbes that will survive at that point are going to be the acidophiles. Acidophiles are your microbes that can live in heavy, you know, acid-based environments. You can think of almost like the microbes and the fungi that you see on citrus plants and things like that. Those are going to be more of your acidophiles than, you know, let's say like Bacillus cereus,
Got you. Got
that
you.
you might commonly find in the soil.
Like when you forget to eat those cuties and they get all fucking moldy.
Yep.
Right.
Your,
I like that.
your greens.
That's
your
a real
whites,
world example.
Yeah.
Yeah, you throw your fucking rotten cuties in your compost pile.
And that's what I tell everybody when they come in. I'm like, it's not so much what you add, it's what environment you create for certain microbes, and it's like, that's how you hit a filter. You create an environment in which only certain ones that are favorable will survive. Everything else is probably fucking weaning stuff off.
And do you have it like in a container? Like how are you storing your compost pile? Like just a pile in the backyard with a tarp over it, or
Butthole.
what are different ways of like storing your compost?
So old school, you just put it in a pile, designated area. You might have a few different piles going on. You might
Right.
mix them together, but you're just essentially turning them after so long of time. You essentially want that compost to break down, especially if you have like fecal matter, manures, things
Right.
like that in there. If it's just the basis of, maintaining, and you can actually do the structuring, you can build compost bins. You can get that rotator for $500 from, City Mill or any
Right.
supply shop. And I mean, I don't shit on it. I think all that stuff is beneficial for the same end result, to be more sustainable.
Right.
But there is no real right way or wrong way. I know guys that throw tarps down. They have a tarp on the bottom so it controls leaching, so they're not losing what they're trying to capture
Right.
from, all the humic acid and the fulvics and stuff.
Right.
Just absorbing back into the
The
ground.
material, yeah, exactly. The material versus the ground, so that's the whole thing, is capturing in the substrate. Putting tarps on top, that's pretty much for elements. If you're getting a lot of rain in your environment,
Sun.
yeah,
Right. Huh.
So you would leave it just open if you have like a nice sunny day. You just leave them in the open, or
yeah, you can essentially just leave it in the open. Yeah,
I think like in Hawaii we have like it fucking rains 1 minute and then it's sunny the next and then it's fucking raining, and then how about people in the mainland where it's like
Freezing
fucking
cold.
Yeah, at night, dude. Because you said if it gets below a certain temperature, like that kind of activity stops, right? Because
exactly. And it's going to be your outside substrate. So anything in your interior is going to be able to survive as long as it's, a optimal zone for it to live in. If there's temperature fluctuations on the outside, it should still be relatively hot on the inside, like hot
Right.
compost when you put
Right.
your hand in.
They'll survive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
but if for a long period of cold, like during the winter, that's when shit can get a little.
Yeah.
So, but microbes and shit, when they freeze and when they thaw, they can come back to life, right?
Bruh, like that. So, funny thing. You can take some moldy bread,
Uh-huh.
put it in your refrigerator, watch it mold out, it'll eat the bread, take over. Take the same starting moldy bread, put another one in your freezer, leave it in there. It's going to be frozen, not going to do shit. Pull it out your freezer, leave one, cut it in half, whatever, leave it on the counter, put it in your fridge. It's going to start molding within like minutes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The microbes
Dormatize,
will-
right?
And you lose, it's 50%,
Mhm.
Right.
You're going to lose some, but the ones that are strong enough to be able to survive, and as soon as the environment becomes favorable again, they just wake back up and then they go back to process.
Yeah, buddy.
Survive the dark winter.
Oh,
Yes.
That's why.
Love it.
That's why sometimes
Not everybody gonna make it.
You have to watch the microbes that you use. The
Right.
times of season that you're capturing microbes. You don't want to pull something like botrytis, or any aspergillus or stuff like that, which you can get in the environment
Right.
and end up cultivating it. And that's where you hear the whole KNF of black mold. Stay away from darker colored mold.
Right.
Which is definitely somewhat true in the microbiological realm.
Right.
Um,
They're just kind of staying safe away from it. Like, okay, that's just a guiding light. Like, okay, stay away from black with a gray and shit like that. Yeah.
Salt and pepper,
Salt and pepper,
And
yeah.
that's more, Aspergillus niger, that's the old school Black Death. So
Got you.
Yeah.
I've seen the Black Death once or twice in my fucking culture. It's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Just trash it?
That's what I did, man. I don't want to get anywhere near that shit.
And how do you test and check all this shit as you're doing this process to see how your bacteria are developing and all that shit?
You can do so it depends on how much quality control you want in your grow. If you're just like a home grower, you might not care as much. So you're just watching to see how the filaments develop on top of the soil, your media, whatever. That could be enough of a verification for you. If you're really in depth, you can make your own agars. That's almost similar to the whole inoculating on the rice.
Right.
You can see what you get, what kind of microbes do I have? Do I have the colors that I should have, Otherwise, send it to an expert. There's plenty of labs, there's cannabis labs here that do microbiological testing per state requirements. You pay the fee, they're happy to test your sample and
Yeah.
let you know what your count is, whether it's aerobic plate count, fungi and yeast, your gram negatives, your biotolerant microbes. They'll let you know what's bad, what's
Right.
good, or just give you a full array of, hey, this is what you
This is
have
what you have,
available.
yeah.
So
Are there any like visual indicators that it's like, other than like
Color
the
is
black
like only-
and the grays and shit like that? But like, what if you don't have that, but there still could be something lurking in there?
Definitely,
Like,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
So like, lab testing is definitely the way to go. But are there any visual ways like somebody could check? Cause fuck, some people are just lazy as fuck, or they don't want to pay.
You can go online, or you can buy the kits, and
They
you
have
can
testing
get
kits.
microbe test kits,
Mhm.
and they'll give you, it's more qualitative at that time instead of quantitative to let you know what the realm is and what the number.
It's more what you have in there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's available, what was
Identifying.
detected by a threshold limit.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
But at that point, you could reconsider and be like, hey, maybe I really should go take it to a lab and get it fucking really tested.
Yeah,
Or
give you a ballpark,
Yeah.
basically.
yeah, like an at-home test. Like, hey, 2 lines says you're pregnant, but hey, let's go to the doctor and get the confirmation. You know
Or
what I'm
if
saying?
you have like a good fucking grow and it's like, oh, dude, I knocked it out of the park on this one. Take a little sample where you're at, put it on agar, then send it to a lab. That way, it's like
What is agar?
Agar
Sounds
is
like a fucking
jelly,
mystical
right?
realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
What jelly? jelly?
Nutrient jelly,
Mhm.
and it's what the microbes like to eat. Consists of the different elements that they can comprise in. Yeah.
But it's not like regular jelly. You got to go get agar.
You can make your
Gelatin?
own.
Do you have to
agar
get it
at
from
home.
a centaur?
Oh my god,
the
Jesus! What do we smoke?
Agar.
You're not having none of this shit, dude. Like, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing agar, and it's been working out and just cutting out pieces and like trying to strengthen that colony that I visually identify because I didn't send my shit to a lab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I knocked that shit out of the park on the grow. All right, cool. I'll take a little sample and I'll put it on agar. Then I'll try and multiply that and see and re-inoculate that soil or whatever I'm bringing back in. And shit, that's been working for me, man. And I follow the JMS, where they do the potato and the fucking I've been doing that, and man, I like the results in that, dude. Like, yeah, especially fungal, like going up and grabbing some mycelium during the special times that and the special trees that we would want to get it from. I mean, I put it all in. Mango tree is my favorite. I noticed that the mycelium mango trees, my cannabis plants, they love it. I passed my tests in my flowers too, so I'm kind of like, all right, cool. I'm not fucking it up. You know what I mean? That's the main thing.
And I mean, it's better to have diversity. It's like our gut system,
Totally.
And the more things that are in the soil to kind of play its part and counteract each other, kind of keeps everything in balance. It's when you start, we add too much nutrients, the microbes get slow and lag. That's where you really start running into effects where you see that,
Right.
I have a higher microbe level of this, or I see funguses that I've never seen before that look kind of iffy.
Right.
But yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I just try to I like diversity, but I don't want that fucking gonna hurt me diversity, So I kind of see all right, this one tested good. Everything must be kosher. Let me take a sample out of this soil and then just replicate that soil, man. Yeah. Hell yeah.
You find one
Microbes.
that works and you roll with that shit.
I roll with it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, is that not agriculture? If you go to most of the farmers you go talk to that are, my family's been farming is the first sentence in their statement. It's like,
Observational.
So, what practice do you follow? Oh, whatever my kupuna would do
Yeah,
before me,
whatever
that's
they
the
taught
same
me.
thing we
Right.
do. So, yeah.
Right. And learning to why did we do that? Okay, this is what my kupuna told me to do. Okay, why? And questioning it not to a disrespectful manner, but questioning it to know it in more depth. It's
yeah.
like, okay, why did she tell me to do that? All right, oh, that's why. Holy shit! And you read about it and all right, cool. Let's do this. It's now a law. Let's follow this shit right off the bat. Hell yeah.
Add it to your repertoire.
Yep.
What is that? You're rolling.
One of my good friends dropped off Professor P's cough.
Oh.
So I believe it's TK and Northern Lights 5. So we'll try it. Good ups. Fucking big ups to Mikey for his awesome grow. He's stepping into the organic world too, so I think he's going to pay attention to this. And I can explain so much,
So explain it then.
no, as far as this is why we have my homie on here. 'Cause I can only explain so much, but
explain so
having people hear, this kind of
Expertise.
yeah, dialed into what we're after as far as organic, sustainable farmers. Yeah.
And then, so with your compost successfully cultivated, what do you do with that shit? just is that all you use, or do you mix that in with soil? Is that like topical? Like what the fuck do you use compost for?
So you can use compost to refeed your soil. So essentially,
Okay.
what you're doing is, let's say, image in your head. You just made a compost pile.
Yeah.
You have land, you know.
Yeah.
So what do? You can either dig a hole, put the compost in the hole, bury it over. You can take the compost, use it almost like a mulch, lay it over top of the land, water it down so that all the humic acids, the fulvic, whatever minerals, trace minerals, micronutrients that are available in there, and vitamins, leach into the environment, rejuvenate the soil. Microbes are going to do their thing, because organic, cool thing about organic, they're not synthetics. That the ions aren't fully broken up and ready for the plants to just immediately uptake and eat, and it's all crazy. It's a full balanced ecosystem. Everybody's holding hands and doing their part down the chain gang. Hey, I'm chopping away. We got this compound now. It's ready and viable for this plant to take it up. Oh, let me chisel that end piece real quick for you, brother.
Yeah.
Then one microbe holds the root and holds the element, and he's like, okay, here you go. Now we're
doing one of these
complete.
moves, fucking right to the next guy in a fucking
The gigantic chain.
goes up the phloem,
Yeah.
of the plant for it to do its thing with xylem when it's taken in the water. So that's the kind of the way that you can utilize it. If you're growing in pots, you can take your compost, mix it in with your soilless media blends or planting media blends. You might have peat moss, and your pumice or your perlite. Your organics help to supply extra nutrients essentially. Depending on what kind of media you're using, it's going to either hold those elements for longer, so it's going to be more viably available, or it's going to be able to allow the microbes to kind of interact and utilize whatever nutrients essentially from the compost that you're putting in there to kind of make your media almost in the soil. If you ever finish a grow and you pull out the dirt, or your soil and everything, you might have had mixed media and you threw compost on top, but you ever put your hand through it and you're like, oh shit, like this is almost seems like dirt from outside, you know? It's taking the time to process. So that's pretty much your end result that you're getting. The old school way, you take some dirt, or not some dirt, take some compost, some manure, fecal matter manure, animal manure, take some green plant matter, take some carbon, whatever natural carbon source, bark, whatever, dry leaves, stuff like that, throw it in a bag, throw the bag in a sunny place, leave it, come back in a month, you're going to have natural dirt and soil in there. So
Interesting.
So you could actually like take this compost and like mix it in and like till up shitty soil and kind of make it good soil.
Yeah.
You can throw it in your bucket with some water, throw an agitator in there, throw some molasses to feed the microbes that's already there, and you can make your compost teas too. So
And molasses because of the sugar content?
For the sugar content. And I mean, you don't have to use just molasses. Molasses is probably, I would say, more recommended just for the bioavailability of what the sucrose is in there, and other elements. But you could use, brown sugar. You could use raw sugars. You could use, agave. You just don't want to use stuff like honey that is going to be antimicrobial.
Yeah.
And it's same.
Oh, is honey anti...
Yeah, that's why it fights infections, right?
Yeah.
When you get nicks and stuff, put honey on it.
What?
Old school. You put
Really?
honey into a wound. Yeah.
No shit.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'd never
buddy.
fucking heard that before.
Add
get-
that to your repertoire.
I heard a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, but I never heard anything about
honey,
no honey.
man.
Dude.
You have strep throat. You take some honey for the sore throat action.
Really?
Yeah. And that's like that's the marketing 101. If you look at every brand of cough drop,
honey and
says
some
honey.
shit. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Makes sense now. I'm learning.
Yeah, buddy.
That's why I'm
This
on this
is
show.
all about, dude.
Yep.
That's fucking crazy, dude. But yeah, I was thinking because like there's places in Hawaii here, like the dirt now that's there has been fucked by agriculture
Yeah.
just over the years, and if there's a way to bring that back to life somehow, it sounds like composting could be a possibility.
Composting is a possibility.
Definitely.
Charcoaling, allowing ash to naturally, essentially absorb, most of the toxins and things, and allowing them to kind of relatively burn off if they're able to vaporize.
Right.
Otherwise, just getting them to a farm where weedy plants can take them up, and then you can get rid of the weedy plants and move forward. High phosphate, that's the problem with that. The phosphoric acid buildup just kind of neutralizes and kills the
Nice.
soil. It's almost like the whole, we've all said it
I
a
just
thousand
said it.
times. oh, you got nutrient lockout. You know, why do you have nutrient lockout? Is it pH or is it nutrient elemented? You know, if it's a nutrient, most times it's phosphate or potash or something else that's causing a fluctuation of other nutrients to be able to absorb for the plant. So,
So some land is just no bueno already.
and I've seen some land like that. I've seen some ag reports, you know, where you could run into issues,
Heavy
but
metals and shit.
you know, but
Yeah.
it's up to the quality of the farmer. And a lot of agriculturists today are really into the whole environmental movement, so they want to do their part to even be partially organic or partially sustainable if they can. So that's the biggest thing. But another one, you know, is seldom, relatively talked about a lot, but seldomly talked about a lot today. When the upcoming of the hemp industry kind of came out, that was the forefront, was bioremediation. Remediation being that we're kind of able to clean something up, make it better again. Hemp will absorb heavy metals, excess fertilizers, and pesticides and other toxins and things from the soil. And then what do you do with it after it's done? You can burn it, get rid of it completely.
Right.
You know, you could technically sieve it out, squeeze all the excess materials out, drum that and dispose of it, hopefully properly. You know,
Right.
but the level of which you can do to clean the environment is kind of, you know, frivolously ongoing, even beyond hemp. You know, in Hawaii we have cane grass growing everywhere. Cane grass in itself is a bioremediator. It's absorbing a lot of the shit because it's the only thing that's viably able to grow in some of these toxic
I was gonna
lands.
say that's why it's growing all over that shit, because it's the only thing that can grow now.
Yep.
Fuck, that's
By
just crazy.
Helemano on the pineapple fields on the side, you know that's cane grass. Easy to be growing over there. Kunia, it's another one.
All
Cane
that
grass
old pineapple,
everywhere.
sugar cane land.
You know?
And I mean, that was the way back then. We overspray herbicides to clear the land because no one wants to slash and burn, you
Right.
know. And
Right.
then once you over fertilize the land with synthetics, because UAN and other synthetics kind of took the lead on that.
Yep.
They wanted to make sure that the whole thing wasn't optimal plant growth. It was abundant plant growth to feed the natural, you know, people, the population.
Efficiency.
We needed more nutrients to have more robust plants, kind of where, you know, Monsanto comes into play to get these plants to kind of be on a more favorable level to handle all of this stuff. Now we got to genetically enhance the plant. Nothing, I see their viewpoint as a great original viewpoint, as being like a botany ag guy, you know, in my beginning years. Like, they came from the right point of view and the right spot, but it's the growth and where they're going to where you can see that you no longer care about the quality of the plant.
Right.
You're just making an end product, whether it's a
Yes.
food or medicine, because, you know, Bayer and Monsanto are together now, and it's the corn and the insulin. So, yeah.
Right.
Or insulin in the corn. So,
And they just grew to the point where, you know, money became the driving force.
Right.
And subsequently all the fucked up shit they've done to all these places and all these farmers because of it.
because it's not just, oh, you have the genetics. You got to spray and do the patterns that we set up for these genetics to outperform all heirloom strains, all heirloom plants, you know?
Right.
So,
And that's the thing that they didn't really like focus on the heirloom side of it. They just kind of like, all right, we're going to genetically modify this to do this. And this is the plan we set out for it. But I mean, like you said, the forefront idea was a positive idea. He meant good, or she meant good, but the way it was misconstrued into like, okay, efficiency and economics is going to be our driving force behind this company. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole issue behind this thing.
Yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
100. That's a good one, dude. Oh my God.
that's the way of the world, though, you know? You
Yeah.
want to do the most beneficial good thing, but we don't always think about the other part of the glass.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's always a ramification for something that man does. You know what I mean? Like, if we derive from an organic practices or the way it was intended, there's always a ramification on the back end. Like, maybe you don't see it in this generation. Maybe the next generation we figure some shit out. Like, oh fuck, we've been messing up the wrong thing. You know?
Did you guys see on the internet where fucking farmers were posting about how they're getting paid to destroy their crops?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it overproduction?
I have no fucking idea. There wasn't really
The price per
with
crop.
with most social media there isn't much further explanation, right?
yeah.
It's a fucking 60-second clip.
They were saying
and
the price per their crop was getting bought out at a higher rate because there's a dip in the crop, so it was like fluctuated. You know, it was really a saturated market. So like, hey, we'll give you like 2 cents more per whatever it may be. Oh fuck, what do I have to do? Just kill your crop.
Yeah.
But what's the reason? I mean, other than economics, what's the fucking point?
You shut out competitors.
Yeah, other than economics.
Yeah, that's economics is the only driving force
fucking
behind that kind of
That's so
shit.
fucked up.
I know a guy who does wheat or corn production in the mainland, the Midwest.
Mhm.
Brother does puts everything in silos, and then it's like the stock market, he says, and
Yeah.
that's how they judge when the market
When they're gonna
fluctuates.
fucking sell.
I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
I'm just like, so it just sits. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what happens if it just goes to shit? It goes to shit. And it's
Yeah.
like,
We're willing to take that.
yeah. And he's like, that's still money, because he's like, oh, they might make ethanol out of it, or corn fructose syrup, or whatever.
That's
you don't know who
ingenious,
the
though,
end
as
buyer
a small
is.
farmer.
So-
That's super smart.
That's why when you fly over to Midwest, you see all those little fucking squares of fucking
Silos.
corn and shit. No, just like the fucking farmlands.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ag
Thousands
fucking
of acres that
Ah.
they're plowing, yeah.
all through the
And-
Midwest.
And even though that's all going on, they're not out competing China, and China is the massive producer. Big example, garlic. Most people,
Oh, shit.
you know, what do you think of? You think garlic, you think Italy, you know, but in actuality,
I think of fucking California. I think of fucking. Oh, God damn it. Never mind.
I think of Bravos and their garlic rolls.
There's a place
Oh
in
my
California
God.
where they have a garlic festival every fucking year.
see,
God damn it. Somebody listening knows what it is. Anu, Google it.
You know what'd be cool?
Garlic festival
A vendor
in
that just sold
California.
gum right outside that festival.
Gum? They
Oh,
probably do, and
what?
it's like
Yeah.
garlic or regular one, just because they want to give you the appearance of choice, but they know you're gonna buy the mint one because your
Yeah.
bread fucking stinks.
or you just get stuck with Big Red and everything burns.
Yeah.
Snap.
Watch this.
Shout out to Big
Is
Red.
this the Gilroy Garlic Festival?
Gilroy Garlic Festival, California, yeah?
What's
Hey.
the name of the guy who runs it?
Fucking Steve Gilroy. Nah, Gilroy's the name of the town in California.
So there's a guy who is the garlic czar who lives in California, and he's on the commission for ag housing, so where they do all the testing for export and import.
Mhm.
So things coming in from China, I forget the brother's name, I don't like put people down, but it was on Rotten on Netflix, or like talking about it. He holds the key for the market, so that's
Whoa.
why China has the better price point for shipping in, even with the logistics of transportation.
No
They're
shit, huh?
beating out more local competitors. You get
Really?
more foreign garlic, whether it's minced, peeled, or whole, than you do of localized garlic.
That's why can't I get fucking garlic on my pizza at fucking Pizza Hut? Because they told me they like to deal with local fucking sources, and I was like, that's fucking awesome. And they're like, that's why we don't have spinach and garlic right now.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
because they can't find a local one that fucking, you know what I mean?
Right.
They could go get the Chinese one probably at a way fucking cheaper price, but they're
Yeah.
trying to stick to their values, and I fucking big up
Well, they got
Hawaii
that,
Pizza Hut.
They got that vertical grow on Lanai, and they have the other one in Kaka'ako. And essentially, I think
Right.
they're growing greens like spinach and things like that. So
Mhm.
I don't know, guys. Maybe they can supply. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Mr. Hut, call.
Hey, Mr. Hut.
Vertical grows. Yeah.
What's up, Anu?
Your computer's wigging right now.
You're wigging.
You know, I
I'll
think
come over there and look.
agriculture in the 3D is kind of like the future of like urban agriculture. You know, like
Mhm.
you see all those hydro towers, and
Oh, yeah.
what would be your? How would you do a vertical, organic, sustainable grow?
So I would first go to city and county, and I would propose to them in the building commission that for every old structure that's able to hold vegetation, and every new structure that they're going to put up, they have to dedicate some type of roof space. Doesn't matter about the size of the square footage, but some type of roof space for vertical growing. You try to make it at least a 2 to 3 tier, but it's okay if you get a 1 to 2 for some crops, but at least a 2 to 3 tier, so that every new building going up has vegetation that essentially arises from that building. So essentially you could have a local market just right downstairs. So
And of course,
you're-
rain catchment and all of that stuff could be
Exactly.
integrated into that.
solar panels, you can use gas digestion to produce natural gas, which could produce electricity if you really needed it.
Right.
But I mean, under the right conditions, that's the way to do it. And then you grow crops like blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries that can all be sustained here in Hawaii, and then we limit our import in of those berries from other places.
100%.
I was gonna
There
say,
you go.
when you're talking about that, I imagine
Vote
those
for
buildings,
Jason.
those buildings in China that have all of the fucking terrace, the way it's built with actual plants growing up the side of it. And I find it funny that in China where the air quality is dog shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're growing all these plants outside. Fucking,
Hey,
you know what I mean?
I mean, Singapore and certain places in Vietnam, that's the way it is. They've kind of gone back to the whole eco-friendly, full hand definition. We're working with the natural environment. We're not working against it. You know.
But in a place where the air quality is that fucking shitty,
Yeah.
are those plants even good to eat if you're growing like fucking blueberries out your window and you open your window and you can't even go outside without a mask on?
I mean,
Depends on the practices, right?
yeah, and the location.
Well,
But
I
I
get-
mean,
oh.
we're building carbon, what are they called? Carbon filtration centers now. I think there's one in Iceland that just went live last week or just beginning of this week, and then there's one in Texas that's underway, financed by a Canadian company.
I know they have a bunch of those in China too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the scheme, you know. But I don't think. I think the problem is that more people aren't terrace gardening, you know, having
Mhm.
living walls, things like that,
Mhm.
because we can work with nature. I mean, you want clean, fresh air. I don't see any other choice to get there other from plants
More
or
plants.
algae.
Well, that's
More
how we
fucking
got
plants.
it, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we get our oxygen from, man.
Mhm.
The Amazon.
Like even
Fucking
just
it up.
having fucking vines growing up the side of the building looks cool too. Well,
Yeah.
I guess not everywhere. You know what I mean? You don't want your city
I
looking
mean,
like
back
a
to
jungle.
the roof space. Like, I mean, infrastructure-wise, it wouldn't have too much impact on the building. Depends on how, because I used to work on the roofs, right? Like I used to do towers, cell towers, and I do all that cellular fucking installs. But I noticed that there was a lot of roof space almost on every roof that I went to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's extra revenue for the building. You know, that increases sustainability. Small little store or whatever you could have, you know, for that building or sustain.
Decreases AC needs because
go.
it naturally cools the building, you know.
Because you have a layer of soil on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Or even if you have pots, you know, and things growing
Raised beds and
hydroponically and
shit,
ebb and
yeah.
flow, yeah, all of that helps cool the roof, and especially once you put solar panels on top, you know.
Right.
Most times, yeah, you're gonna use natural sunlight through your greenhouse or your structure, but you're gonna probably have LEDs in there too, because the whole economical side of things is that I need to get my product to market as soon as possible.
Right.
So, yeah,
Imagine how much cooler Google Earth would look.
See, it would, yeah.
You ever seen that one building downtown that has that outdoor garden? Not for food or anything. It's like for walking and sitting and shit. But it's kind of cool. It's a very cool concept. You could definitely pull it off and just put some flowering or fruiting plants and shit. Not
Right.
flowering, fruiting. But you know what I mean?
If everybody did a little bit of that,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some sort of like, I don't know, stimulus or help, you know, from the state, just an incentive, you know,
Yeah.
more so, to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we'd be in a way different position than we are now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't when you really spin the clock about it, you know, it doesn't make sense a lot of times that we're not taking these innovations
Yeah.
and they're going, you know, you hear the both sides of the argument, you know. There's not enough land to grow. But then okay, there's viable warehouse space that's just been abandoned. There's
Mhm.
viable rooftop space that could be utilized. But then oh no, the cost of renewable energy is so expensive that it outweighs the benefit of doing any project with renewable sources. And it's just like none of this that doesn't, you know, equal out to itself. It's like the building can, you know, benefit from solar just like someone's rooftop garden can benefit from solar.
Right.
What are we, you know, what's the conception but it's the misconception. We all kind of pilot around the whole capitalistic game, you
Yes.
know. So taking away from one person's pocket essentially affects.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. You're taking money away from the bigger guys. You're not even taking money away from them. They're still gonna make millions and fucking billions of dollars. Jesus Christ, these fuckers are so greedy.
Well, look at Hawaii and like how much, or in Oahu especially, how much abandoned warehouses and buildings do we have that's like vacant? Like nobody's in them. No one's gonna fucking go there. You know, right down the road in Barbers Point, the
Mhm.
military. You know where they had Tamuras that just shut down? Like all of that area, bruh. You know where
You mean Kalailoa?
Kalailoa. There you go. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Kalailoa. They shut down the Tamuras. Like all of those little abandoned military buildings that haven't been there for. Dude, I would be fucking growing in that. You know.
The bunkers that are hidden in the mountains, in the caves.
Yes.
I mean, you go in the Kahana Valley and Windward Side, you know, anywhere that's going up Kava and everything.
Those
and
are
around
currently being used though.
by the water.
No shit.
They're being used by the NSA to fucking. Do you hear that shit from
Bruh,
Snowden and
That's
shit?
Cunha, bro.
Bro, it's all over, bro. Those fucking ones connect to the fucking ones on the east side, and there's tunnels and fucking it gets nuts, dude.
But let's save that for another podcast.
Have you ever been to the ones over here at the Gulch and fucking you go up Waikele and then you drive back down? They have the fucking military bunkers
You can
in
rent
the
them
mountain.
out. They're the fucking storage spaces.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're fucking dug into the mountain like 2 football yards.
You remember that explosion
Yards,
that
fields.
happened? Yeah, with the
Two
fireworks and shit. Yeah, it happened.
That was
there.
over there.
No kidding.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
But they were built with the fucking, you know, alternating cement blocks and shit to fucking, because that's where they used to store the fucking ammunition and
Right.
fucking bombs and stuff. But yeah, you can rent them out for storage or whatever the fuck else you need.
I mean, there's a lot of vacant spots.
They're
out there
huge.
Like that.
They're huge.
They're
Those
gigantic.
ones are empty, but I'm talking about the other ones. There's some that you drive by that everyone looks like they're abandoned.
Yeah.
But when you finally get to the one you're going to and open it and realize like, oh shit, all of these are being used. What the fuck are they all being used for?
Storage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fucking storing what? Computers to spy on everybody from Hawaii.
Whoa.
Old data files.
Yeah,
you know?
Snowden. Snowden unveiled all that shit. Wrong podcast. Sorry.
Yeah.
I heard you tell me. I heard you say stop, but I fucking kept going.
Snowden doesn't grow weed.
Or so we think.
So
Yeah.
we thought. So we thought.
Maybe the Russians got a different market. You know what I mean?
But you know, like in the scene in
At Snowden.
no.
Okay.
What's the movie? Pineapple Express, where they got the government military bunker, but they had all the weed in their current time. It used to be the bunker back in the day,
Right.
and now cut to fucking present time. It
was a bunker for
weed in
weed
it.
experiments, right? Remember?
Oh yeah, that's
soldiers-
right. That's
There
right.
was some guys in the early cannabis industry for medical here that were interested in getting space, and I remember talking to them, and that was something that I suggested. It's like, hey, go find a bunker. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, Pineapple Express. I'm like, bro, whatever you
Yeah.
thinking. I was like, it's out of sight, it's out
Yeah.
of mind. You worried about the smell. Now you got no smell pollution you got to worry about.
Right.
Rent that fucker out the chimney. No one's gonna know where it's coming from because
How
you're
easy
underground.
it to sterilize.
There's
that
a
place,
6-foot metal door protecting your shit.
Yeah, exactly. And you can do everything all inside one facility. Versus, you know, what does everybody do? Let's go build a brand new warehouse or facility somewhere and
Why?
more money, you know.
Why?
Yeah. But that's what everybody wants. You want brand new for the investors. So, yeah.
How does that work? You just telling me you're just renting it and don't ask me what the fuck I'm doing with it?
Well, it depends. Some people don't care. So,
I think those ones they care because you're next to where they store all the fucking fireworks and
They care because you're gonna make them a lot of money. They don't care because you're gonna make them a lot of money. They're
nah,
like,
but
"Oh."
they don't want you fucking snooping around the other ones.
well, they don't ever set you up. It's just like when you go look for space in buildings or certain warehouses. As soon as you tell the realtor or whoever, you know, property manager what you're about to do, they already know in their head. It's like, oh, you want privacy, so we're gonna take you to these larger facilities in the back or on the side. You know,
Right.
I'm just trying
come
to get
in,
it.
come out, no one knows what's going on. Look like construction crew. So,
Right.
yeah.
I'm just trying to get it back to the bunker conspiracy.
You fucking guy. You can't help yourself.
Sorry,
I love it. I love it too, bro. Don't get me wrong. I love the conspiracy. Dude, fucking Mokuleia has a nice little bunker though. You know when you're going to the off-roading, you look to the left. There's like a little switchback going up the mountain.
Mhm.
Just a little bunker. Bam! Right there. I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool, bro. I want to walk there and smoke a doob.
and all the open space between once you leave like Wahiwa before you hit fucking Haleiwa,
Mhm.
all that open space and Maui too. Now they're not doing sugarcane and shit on Maui. Like all that old. I mean, the soil is probably in horrible condition.
But the clean is just to start the initiative, you know, for
Right.
preservation. It
Uh-huh.
all starts with somebody willing to come in and do it. But
Right.
that other hand of the shake also comes from the state and the bureaucracy and municipalities to be able to
Yeah.
say, hey, we're
That's the
gonna
hard one right
we're gonna
there,
let you
bro.
take it. So
Right.
much ag land available, but then it's mixed zone. So you
Yep.
can't even do ag there, but then, or it's ag zone, but then you can't even afford it. It's just like Big
Yeah.
Island, Hamakua Coast. It's like, why is there $1 million ag land for 20 acres, bro? 50 acres, 100 acres. Like, there's nothing here. I gotta
Right.
come clear trees, clear all this shit just because I get a coastal view.
Right.
Like, that doesn't put money in the fucking bank for
Yeah.
what I'm growing.
I can't
Right.
add that cost onto the corn I'm
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
The fucking shit I'm growing over here. Nah,
Market,
that's-
our corn has the best seat in the
Yeah.
house, you know?
Yeah. Our potatoes with their eyes, they have the best view. No, but fuck, like they could. Ultimately, it's money. right? If we're being completely honest. But like all that could be used towards like hemp production, not even for like smoking or anything, for like what's it called? Textiles, fucking whatever else.
Byproducts.
Hempcrete is another one I'm fucking hearing about. And like, fuck, I think that still doesn't make enough money or have enough appeal. But that could be one way. Like, fuck, nothing is good. Like, we got to get away from tourism. I'm going to say it. Coming from the tourism industry, we got to get away from tourism. But that could be one option to fucking kind of like prop up other things. You know, it's not going to only be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be only one thing for Hawaii once tourism is not the one thing. You know what I mean? It's going to be multiple things. Everybody's talking about, like, gotta be, what are we going to replace tourism with? Like, you're not going to replace tourism with one thing. It's going to be like a handful
Multiple
of shit.
things,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Hemp could be one of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they give up the land, they lease land to the military for $1 fucking till infinity and beyond.
Right.
Like, why can't they lease it to fucking farmers who are trying to, like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Bring it back to life. Yeah. Bring back the fucking quality of rejuvenate.
Yep.
Hey.
Revitalize the
Revitalize.
land that fucking has been just shit on for the past hundreds of years. From
I think more public incentive would be a good way, you know, like giving out more grants for people like aspiring farmers. I think like, especially like OHA. OHA for Hawaiians that are interested in agriculture should not only educate them, should put up some money, bruh. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, jumping into a homestead, you know, they should have a separate program and allocate those funds to inspire the Hawaiian community. You know what I mean? Hey, let's learn how to do this, and let's treat the Aina as if it was all our home. You know what I mean? Like for generations, which it is, but put it into their head how, hey, if you want to do that, we're gonna make sure you know as much as we can get you to know and put you in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, not just stick us on a reservation and like, all right, fucking get it.
Yeah.
I think a more progressive approach, especially for the Hawaiian community. And that's why, you know, Daniel Anthony, I like the way he's preaching and he's spreading the word. It's bottom line, the common denominator is positivity and sustainability, right?
100%.
Right.
there are federal grants for farmers.
Yeah, but, you know, it
It's a
gets
lot of
used
work,
up.
dog.
It gets used up, and not everybody knows the proper paperwork. Like
It's
there
a
should be
lot of
multiple
paperwork.
venues,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to change our economics from tourism to you know, agriculture. The sugarcane industry, you've seen it firsthand, and you know, pineapple and everything. You've seen everything get decimated in the sake of efficiency. Like fuck that. We should learn the proper way to do it. Maybe micro farm it out over a vast, you know, whatever you guys want to do, whatever the solution may be. The bottom line should be sustainability. It should be like, hey, we're able to do this. Hawaii is a single source entity for infinity. We don't need tourism, but hey, we'll have you come in. You know, we'll show our beautiful home off to you guys. And it's cool.
Ecotourism's a big thing around the world.
Right.
Different places.
Ecotourism.
So you know.
Exactly. There's room for everybody. It's they're throwing bows in the paint right now. That's what I
Yeah.
feel. You know, it's like, hey,
am.
fuck, dude. I gotta tone him down. Yeah, dude. Being able to, I think if everybody sat at the table and like, just, hey, what are we trying to accomplish here? All right, let's make money. It's not bullshit. Everyone's trying to fucking make money.
Yeah.
How do we do this for a longer term? You know, like if I come in and I was like, okay, tourism, something like this happens, and we're all caught with our pants down. You know, having multiple facets of income for our state, I think would be a good thing. You know, it's like, hey, this falls to the wayside. Yeah, we'll take a hit, but we still got these. We're good. You know?
And there's plenty of products to be made, you know. And it's just the same as the analogy of the chicken and the egg, you know. You can't have one without the other. And the same thing for ag. How do we have a limited ag wholesale and distribution points coming out of Hawaii, but in Hawaii for, you know, leaving the state or going to other islands, but the factories to make the other products, you know. I don't see why we're not growing potatoes and have Hawaiian Lay's potato chips or anything else of that, you know, veneer. It's like we're giving up something. And the same thing comes from him. The whole idea or you know, falsely profited ideology is that it costs a lot of money to produce hemp. And yeah, it can, but it costs a lot of money to be a farmer in general.
100%.
And then
any
product-
crop.
Yeah, and then product is the same thing. Oh well, to process hemp, we gotta remove the herds, we gotta remove all the fibers. Oh shit, that's gonna take a lot of water. That's water use problems, the cost in that. Oh, it's not worth to have a factory. It's like,
Right.
but how many textile points do you have just from one crop? You can make clothing, you can make cloths and other material. but
Biofuel.
then- yeah. And then absorbents,
Right.
Because you still got to clean up the polluted environment, just like every drain. How many drains do you guys drive past and you see the sausage tubes just sitting there? That's just absorbent. That sometimes comes
Hemp.
from plant material. Why
Right.
can't you fill those fuckers with
Straw.
hemp?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the waste stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
I think a lot of it is like cannabis in its infancy and the United States embracing it
Yeah.
once again after this big time lapse. So like, all right, how are we going to integrate this to make it normal and not make us look like we were fools for the fucking past 40, 50 years? Like, okay, how are we going to get this to go and make everybody happy again? All right, let's research it. Fuck, that didn't work. All right, let's go put it in a crop. Fuck, that didn't work. Because that time lapse, like how we're just talking about we're slaves to the plant. The plant's learned a lot since we touched it last,
yeah.
like fucking now we're going to try and master it again on an agriculture level. That's why it's expensive, is because that learning curve, people are all caught with it. No matter who's who, we're still learning that plant. It's still in its infancy with humans.
And as much as the U.S., tries to convey it, we were growing hemp right where the Pentagon, right where the Pentagon is today. They had the botanists that ran it had a hemp journal that sold for like $1 million, a little bit more than that.
Damn.
And I mean, 6 foot, 10 foot tall hemp crops, stalk and all. Like they just said that some brothers from the West Coast or the Northwest just harvested the world's tallest hemp plant or hemp trees, mind you. And it wasn't just one.
Was that
it
the
was
Mendo
entire
Dope
crop.
Boys? They're in that competition. I remember they're posting some shit about that. They had like a fucking like a lamp. No, what was it? It was like a fucking plant, and they're posting. It was like 12, 15 feet,
Yeah,
like just
yeah.
going up, bro.
What strain is that?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
gotta go look back on
Yeah.
it, but I
Anu.
heard about that.
20 feet, 21 feet, I think is
21
what
feet.
the harvest height was.
Dude.
Yeah.
Hemp
So,
or like cannabis?
straight hemp.
Oh.
Wow.
See, but like, yeah, the uses of the plant, the whole plant,
Mm-hmm.
are so like wide range. There's such a wide range
Versatile.
of uses. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Versatile. It's a very versatile plant. Versatile.
Gotcha.
But like,
Controversial at the same time.
yeah. And
FDA won't let you put it in food and beverage products. Can't put it in animal feed, depending on what country you're in or what
Fucking
state you're in. and the
malarkey.
regs.
what about the farm bill?
So you're limited to that. That's
Mhm.
only for CBD or hemp broad spectrum products and for textile. There
Gotcha.
is no, and remediation and that's more
So,
testing
yeah.
still.
Gotcha.
So
Mhm.
there is nothing else. Just like the FDA's last printout said that they will not sign off on any products. That's why they did all those recalls. We're suing
CBD
people.
gummies and
Yeah.
fucking vape pens and shit. Yeah.
It's like, hey, we didn't say it could be in, that's why I think there's some bakeries in California that had actively said that they had like CBD and just regular bakery, not even
Yeah,
cannabis, No, you cannot. Your shit needs to be regular and the dispensary guys can sell this other crap. We haven't mixed
Damn.
it.
So is that what the rule was? No CBD and like gummies and vapes sold in public places, but you can get them from a medical dispensary?
So the farm bill, you can produce,
Mm-hmm.
cultivate, produce, and sell, and you can have interstate transport, and to the point of I think you can export now to other countries and import in
Whoa.
hemp products and
Jesus.
genetics and everything else. But yeah, when it really comes down to it, it's the municipalities between state and federal saying the FDA overseers, we're not going to let you put it in cosmetics, foods, this, that, and the other.
Right.
But then as long as it falls within the gray line, you can still sell a cosmetic because FDA doesn't have to approve all cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
No
But you
way.
can't put it in food and beverage. You can't put it in animal feed. You saw what they did to the raw milk, and they went to all the pet stores, the DOH.
No.
Oh, you never seen that?
No.
Raided all the pet stores.
I've heard stories of them like fucking smashing bottles.
what?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was like
moonshine and shit.
like yeah, like fucking
The
Nazis,
great
bro.
fucking
It was
milk.
crazy, like smashing, like you can have this, like crazy shit.
Thousands of dollars of raw milk products. That's not even for human consumption, mind you. It's for animals, but it's the same thing to them. So it's all regulation and bureaucracy that you follow.
Here
in Hawaii, and also, well, Hawaii just enforced it, but it's a law. It's
I know
a
it's been
federal
happening
law.
in the
Outta
mainland.
here.
So,
Are you
the mainland.
serious? I was totally unaware of this, man. Oh my god.
This was like towards the end of the summer that they did that. Yeah.
No, but I was gonna say, like, I think the Farm Bill had a lot to do with this explosion of these Delta 8 fucking crazy shit,
Yeah.
and now I seen like THCO and Delta fucking elemental P and all this fucking crazy shit, and it's like
it's opinion, like what is Delta 8? It's CBD that's fraction. So that's a synthetic cannabinoid. What's the difference between Delta 8 and buying spice or K2 from your local smoke
100%.
shop?
right. That's what what I was thinking, but I have tried it, and it's not the same. It's weird, but fuck, I don't know. I've experimented with it. I'm not gonna lie. Fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't fuck with. Honestly, like I was like, whoa, that looks like weed. And the guy at the smoke shop's like, oh, that's Delta 8. I was like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah. Well,
Because
they
you're
spray
missing
the
one.
plant with Delta 8. So they take a hemp plant,
Mm.
which passed for hemp, and then they spray that with the Delta 8, or they saturate it.
God
and
damn it,
then
all
that's
right.
what you get.
I'm out.
I'm good.
I'm out.
Yeah. No more Delta 8.
No more.
And I mean, and it's all consumer market. It's what the people want.
Right.
There's people out there that do smokable hemp is a big thing. Hemp products,
Uh-huh.
and they're interested in this because they want a relative high. But there's other natural cannabinoids,
Right.
that offer some kind of euphoria or sedative form to it. It's just the realm of exploration of cannabinoids has been going on since the grandfather himself from Israel started initially doing the practices, and everybody started washing. So
Wow.
yeah.
Huh.
Okay, no more Delta 8. Yeah. Fuck,
Sorry
I
to-
really
sorry
thought
to
it was.
spoil it.
That's the way they fucking.
Well,
it
Eric
mar-
turned me on to Delta 8, so.
Sorry, bro. Fucking.
Thanks,
What, you're
Eric.
fucking your friend up too?
I
bro?
didn't know, dog. I was like, it's legal. Oh fuck, cool,
So,
bro.
so in the state, so weird.
Oh, I gotta delete that fucking post.
Weird laws, bylaws. So in the state of Hawaii, they do not accept Delta 8 as being legal. But
They do,
yet,
though.
But
They-
yet they do, because
Yeah.
you can find it. But if you look in the regs for Hawaii, it says that Delta 8 is not allowed.
Well, I
So-
asked the lady at this unnamed store, and I was like, "How did what the fuck? Like, I thought they just banned all this shit. You know what I mean?" And she was like, "Yeah, well, that's what they said."
Well,
Yeah.
just like vapes, right? Wasn't vapes the same thing? Like, oh yeah, they're gonna ban all flavored vape juice, and I was like,
Didn't they though? But that just comes into effect like.
I don't know, man. It still smells some pretty
Yeah.
candy ass vape.
Well, you
when
can
people,
you can make it yourself. So I
Right.
mean, if you can make it at home, what's the point? Just like vape, you don't necessarily have to go buy nicotine extract at the store. You
Mm.
could, I mean, don't ever do this. Not recommending
Bleach.
anybody
He's
do
coming
this.
on the bleach.
But
He
you
was gonna say
could
bleach.
go buy
Uh-oh.
some tobacco that's high grade directly from the farmer and extract it yourself at home. No
Mhm.
different from getting caffeine from the coffee bean. So
Right.
huh?
So yeah,
Eric.
but nobody's going. I'm not going through that fucking trouble.
but don't do that.
Yeah. But if there's
So
a safe
how
way,
would you find out what your nicotine content would be on milligrams once you extracted, like say, because like I grow tobacco, right? 'Cause
Okay.
I fucking blunts all day sometimes. Like with the, I gave you some leaves, right? I didn't. Oh, I'm
don't
sorry.
like that
I'm
shit.
sorry.
I said I don't like that shit.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. Anywho, it was pretty cool, man. I grew a Cuban Carrillo. I got the seeds from fucking online, so I grew it, and it came out huge. I mean, it looked like fucking luau leaf. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Big.
yeah.
So it was really nice, and I was like, huh, this is a pretty strong nicotine, because I'd roll a joint with just the leaf.
Heavy the smoke, yeah.
Yeah, but it was nice though. You got that numbing, and it gave you that little nicotine buzz too.
Mhm.
It was like, I mean, I smoke blunts, so
It's like backwoods.
Yeah.
yeah.
You should fucking brand that shit backyards.
Oh, God.
Fucking the same.
Yards with like YAHD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, backyards.
And then you sell them in 3-foot fucking leaves
Yeah.
because you grow big ones.
Yep.
That's how
I
it
think-
used to be. Yeah, you get your tobacco leaf or your banana leaf, and
Right.
you
Big
buy
one.
it off the street. Yeah.
And it's crazy because like
Some of them are selling it like that now, where you fucking get the package and you unroll it, and it's like one big fucking leaf, and
yeah,
you just
but you
rip off a
smell all
cheek.
that flavor and shit.
Yeah,
that
you
they
can get
steep it in.
unflavored ones though.
I know, but there's some processing going in that. That's
Oh
what
yeah,
makes it
always,
so-
bro. Well, yeah.
I mean, grow it your-
Preservatives
grow
at
your
the
own
very
tobacco.
least.
They add sugar to it, hence, Swisher Sweet.
Yeah, yeah, the
Backwood,
flavors.
sweet aromatic, it has
Right.
some sugar added to it. That's how they sweeten
Optimals.
it up. Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that. I used to fuck with blunts and shit.
I still like them once in a while. Like I just chill and just puff
Yeah.
on a blunt. It's okay. Yeah.
In moderation, I think. Tobacco
Yeah, and that's
is
like an
fine,
everyday
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Maybe like once every 2 months, I'm like, that sounds nice, and just jam them.
I don't encourage anybody to smoke tobacco, mind you, but
Don't do it.
if you do, I mean, everything in moderation is okay. So.
Totally. I smoke tobacco and vape and smoke weed, and I tell people don't
And
smoke
Delta
cigarettes.
8.
Yeah, and apparently some fucking bunk ass spice. God damn it. I feel really disappointed in myself for that decision.
It's hemp spice though.
But
so-
I've done it for like, it's not like I just tried it. It's like I've been fucking like coming across this shit and buying it online and fucking.
I mean,
I saw it in a local store. I was like, oh, yay. And now that you told me that, I'm like, no. But thank you. And I'm glad I fucking know now.
knowledge is power, man.
Yeah, fuck. All these people reviewing it, I wonder if they ever did like a follow-up video or ever even looked into it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I did my YouTube research. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fucking stoner channels that I fucking know and trust.
Right.
And they all talk about it as the fucking, the molecule that's, the cousin of fucking Delta 9 and CBD. It's like in the middle.
I just don't trust anything that's
But
highly marketed.
that-
like
Literally,
that.
it's
That is
not
true, though.
in the
They're
middle.
not wrong, but how you're getting it, they're not like extracting it like how you get fucking a dab out of fucking a plant and shit or whatever, that kind of fucking tinctures and shit. They're just
Right.
fucking doing that and spraying it on plants and then fucking doing it.
Another process after extraction, and then exactly, yeah.
How
spraying your plant.
sacrilegious is that, though? You know what I mean? Like, we've taken this plant and we've reversed the stigma, only for people to fucking spray hemp flower with something that's synthesized. Like, I think that's so disrespectful to the plant, and that's my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Like, to turn something that could be adversely affecting us
Yeah.
without our choice and enticing us, and that's why I was trying to mention it. I don't fucking like anything that's highly marketed. You know, if I see it in the shelves of the store, like, and I'm gonna consume that, I don't know, man. I gotta question it and do a little bit more research.
Mhm.
You know, even weed. Like, I'll see weed that's fucking beautiful in the Mylar bag. Oh, that Mylar bag is fucking gorgeous, but I don't know. I
Where'd
don't-
that shit come from?
Right, because there is, like how we were just saying for our original, there's efficiency that needs to happen, you know, to make this wheels turn.
Mhm.
If I'm gonna go and crack that bag open, like I want to make sure I'm safe. Yeah.
100%. And even hemp products right now, they have, think the state or not even the state, the whole USDA up hemp testing, especially for products.
Cool.
So now it's 50 or 60 pesticides that they have to run versus the conventional, and you really didn't even have to do pesticide analysis.
Right.
The only thing that was mandatory was the cannabinoid ratios for
Gotcha.
CBD and Delta 9. So now it's kind of adding on something else, you know.
A little more scrutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me as a scientist, you know, I wouldn't be satisfied until it's the full quality effect, you know. I
Right.
want to know what the foreign matter content is shit on my plant material,
Fuck
or
yeah.
in the product that came from my plant material, was testing done from point A to point B
Right.
to before it even got to me as a consumer at C.
Mhm.
So I'm a big believer, you know, coming from an analytical standpoint. I used
100%.
to do hemp and cannabis testing. I used to
Mhm.
consult in that stuff. Really big on proper quality, because it is the end result of what you put in, you know.
Right.
Hence why I do what I do for my newts too. It's like I don't want to put additives, dyes, colors, flavors, smells in
No.
here just to attract and appeal to you. It's, you know, you're gonna see the amber colored liquid. That's the good stuff. That's how you know
Right.
that it came from a natural organic source, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
The smell, like you're talking about, it's there.
Mhm.
My friend's like, "Oh, it smells like bagaong." I was like, "Yum!" You know what I mean? And you filter it 3 times,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And so, would you say it's you could use it in irrigation system?
You can use it in your fertigation system. You can
Awesome.
old school hand water if you want to.
Nice.
You know, you can put it in your hydroponics. You can aero spray.
Cool.
We have some trials that are hopefully going to come up soon. We'll hear back from some growers coming out of Wisconsin. They're going to run a trial for aeroponics. So, yep.
Rad.
I live in Eva Beach, and I have a fucking noni tree implanted in my backyard, and it's still small. It was like about this tall off the ground. And the fucker was doing really good until 1 week. I don't know what happened. I know it didn't get watered, but that fucker completely just like dead.
Life
at it.
needs water.
Bruh, I know. No, and it's like, fuck, do we even water? Like, it's kind of really depressing, but like, could something like that ever be brought back to life with nutrients? Or no?
Most times, if it's dead, it's dead.
Dead.
Yeah, but I mean, there's obviously limitations to the rule.
'Cause if I cut off a little branch and there's still some green on the inside of there, like some little bit of life,
you could graft it, or you could even almost like do a cutting and try to rehydrate it with some alloy or something to get it to root and stimulate it to grow another one. So there's salvaging it, to save the entire tree. That's hard for me to say without seeing a tree and seeing the environment and stuff and taking everything to accountability. But I've written an article, it's on our website, about proper watering. We talk about everything from the old school, stick your finger in the media, check the coloration, if it's dry, it's lighter, if it's darker, it's wet, heavy, wet. Old school chopsticks, looking for the saturation point on the wood.
Nice.
But most times, if you have a dry plant or a plant that's drying out, it might be somewhat brittle, but as long as it's green when you make a cutting into the queue, then you should be able to water it, and within, if it's real thirsty, a couple hours, you'll start to notice a difference. But then by the next day, you see a dramatical change. But it just depends on how dry, it is. And essentially the xylem in the plant is essentially like the straw that it drinks from. I always tell people XW, xylem for water, So if the xylem's still intact and it's still hardy and the cells around it are supportive, then it's going to be able to bulk flow and suck all the water up, that you're applying to it. Right. But if that's tainted, then it's just like old school tactics, right? What do you do to a tree when you want to kill it? You debark it. Right. You separate, and you don't even have to debark the whole tree. You're just doing it on a tiny little air layer, and that's enough to kill off all the xylem and phloems, because there's many of them depending on the size of the plant or the tree structure, and it just suffocates it. I can't feed now. Might get it going up, but then now you got this gap. It's almost like having trachea esophagus, or mouth esophagus, no stomach, and then intestine. How is it, it's not going to connect.
Straight pipe.
No, it's going to cut off. Can you overwater a plant that's in the ground?
Yes, you can.
Doesn't it just like absorb into the dirt and just like go away?
That's a good question though. Like, people need to know that one, man.
So water will evaporate, and then the rest that doesn't evaporate gets, absorbed into the soil, and then whatever kind of over excess of that level gets leached. Leaching, being runoff essentially, so your water moving away, carrying away top soil or top, minerals, nutrients, things like that. And then as it leaches, depending on the type of minerals or nutrients that are available, those can be leached too. Think about out here, you rainy season hits, and it starts pounding. When you're driving around, you see some plants, they love it up and they eat it. But some plants, they cannot handle. They're like, it's like that. You ever see somebody walking, or like I used to catch the bus a lot as a kid. So you're waiting for the bunch and it's pouring and there's nothing you can do and there's no like bus stop. That's how your plant is.
How I look right now, you mean?
It's oversaturated. It's so heavy with, moisture that it's like, brah, like,
dry me out.
And it loses, water. That's just transpiration, and transpiration happens in the plants. You have natural evaporation in the soil, but as it bulk flows through the plant, it comes out, of the leaves. It's transpiring and evaporating as that moisture leaves the plants. So it's an endless returnable cycle of water. They're
stuck in the loop right there, right?
So
but like I hear all this plant intelligence shit, and like, don't plants know when to stop drinking?
So they do. That's Stomata Exchange. So your stomata are these little pores that are in the leaf itself. And it helps for, more or less, when we hear stomata, we hear like gas exchange. So that's like taking in the CO2. You hear a lot of growers like, yo, bro, I got to pump CO2 for photosynthesis. That's what that's all about. But when there's too much water, it closes.
Right.
So there is no gas exchange. That's where your plant's not like breathing right, So his respiration rate's kind of low. That's why he looks all hung and stuff like that. Versus dry, he's still gonna look like low and hanging, but he's light because everything's
all the moisture's coming out.
It's all brittle and shit.
Right.
And they try to close up, and that's why you get that the leaf curl or the wrinkly leaf where it's real tight and it's dry when you touch them. Some of them are brittle, but some are like still green enough where it doesn't brittle and kind of just rubs in your hand.
It crackles and there's like still structure there. Yeah.
So that's where moisture, But I mean, a plant needs moisture, just like we need moisture. That's all about the structure and stability of the plant. So it's just finding that fine balance. But I always tell people, you overwater your plant, you can kill your plant that way. You underwater your plant, you can kill your plant that way. Just like if we drink too much water, we can die. If we don't drink enough, we can die. So it's that fine point of water when needed. And I get a lot of grower questions like that too of,
Yeah.
how often should I water my plant? I'm in this size pot. And, I like numbers and I hate numbers. So when I hear all this stuff, it's like, bruh, like, is a dirt dry when you go to water it? Well, I don't know. And that's like the biggest answer I always get. It's bro science. I want someone else to tell me what to do because I'm too impatient to check. And even when I check, it's like taking a Scantron test or any kind of cumulative test. You second guess yourself, even though you think you might be right. So just trust yourself. You look at the media, the soil. If you touch it and it seems dry, it's probably dry and needs some water. But don't just touch the surface like looking at the
Investigate.
book page. Yeah, open the book up, stick your finger in the soil, dig a little.
You gotta
hole on the
literally
side.
dig a little deeper.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
The chopstick method is pretty good. I like
So what
that
do you
one.
stick your chopstick in and just see if it comes out like
How
wet?
deep the moisture hits on the chopstick. So it's like it should be way more saturated down here, and then it gradually gets drier as it goes up. So you can see where it's like really saturated if you need to water it or not.
And sometimes you can even leave your chopstick in there. So it just helps as a visual guide. Because as soon as your chopstick dries out, it's the same thing. It gets lighter in color. So the
Right.
wood is more of a light brown, tan color.
And it's gonna dry out in the same kind of timing with the rest of your soil
It
in your
wicks up
pot.
all the moisture from the soil into the fibrous
Right.
chopstick, so you can kind of like visually
Watch
see
it.
Yeah.
Old school methods.
Yeah.
Don't reinvent the wheel, man.
So you can I always thought, how are you gonna overwater a plant? Like first, it's just gonna go into the ground.
Grab your
Second,
plant, throw 'em in water, bro, and
second-
see what happens.
plants are real smart, so they know not to drink.
So yeah.
But we do drown, even though we don't want to drink anything.
No, I know, but so I was thinking that they know to stop drinking, and yes, it will leach away, and but if they're in a pot with no hole and it's just flooded with water, then they can't get the fucking nutrient. Yeah, like they're drowning. Exactly.
No oxygen available, and we need oxygen.
Exactly what you said. Yeah.
It's like when you get into a pool, you get all wrinkly and shit.
Yeah.
Imagine living in that motherfucker. Dude, your skin's gonna fall
Yeah,
off.
true that. True that.
Have you ever
Right.
have you ever grown a plant in an aquarium?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
how about touche? How about that aquaponics, bruh?
No.
Completely
sir.
fucking. Oh, but they have. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I was almost on the side of what you're saying with how it dissipates, or the plant will break down if it's too saturated. You can take certain types of plants and grow them completely submerged underwater.
Right.
And then after a certain time, depending on the wax content, or the lipid layer of the leaves and of the plant structure, eventually it will degrade, but sometimes it can hold its own for a while. I've
Right.
seen in the 2010, 2011, there's some guys out of like the mainland that were bored and they were doing studies of growing plants underwater in aquariums, and that was like the whole bias of that. But I've seen
Fully
other studies
submerged.
fully submerged. Yeah.
Like regular plants that
Like
we're
aquarium
not putting
plants.
going
Yeah.
up, or aquarium plants.
Like regular cannabis plants
Ah.
or regular other plants that they were just messing with and just to see what would happen. And it was all just that wax layer, how
shit.
protective was the plant to be able to prevent. And it was like what we're talking about, high to low, or low to high concentrations and how diffusion happens.
Right.
Where is the threshold point or the threshold for which, the plant can no longer sustain its own, and then solubility ruptures and everything just leaches out. So
And the very flip, like hydrophobia, would be kind of like the opposite of that, where you can't take on any moisture, right?
oh yeah.
So it's like the both spectrum of that. And I get a lot of questions on hydrophobia too. It's like, I water my soil and everything beads off the top and runs out. Like, how do you correct hydrophobia? And I knew you were going to ask that.
Well, I have a couple plants that are doing that too. But anyway, I want to get back to the hydroponic shit because those roots are constantly underwater.
So the roots
Yes.
are underwater or
Yes.
partially underwater,
Yes.
and essentially they're just fed by the ions in the mix, or in your reservoir or your individual sink tanks.
Mhm.
But the way that hydroponics become beneficial is the circulation of the water in itself.
Right, with running water.
It's not stagnant water.
So they're running nutrients in that water. It's not just water.
I mean, exactly. And I mean, the cool thing about it too is you look at a lot of the vertical grows. So it's everybody complains about water problems. A vertical grow is about 70% recyclable for water. So
Right.
they don't have to add new water unless new water evaporates from lighting and things like that. or
Right,
heat
right.
and environmental temperatures. otherwise, the water is continuously cycled, filtered, and reapplied, and you still have nutrients viable. And it just might be lower nutrient amounts, but that's where you check your microsiemens per centimeter in your EC, or you check your ppm for your TDS, you know, and then you adjust for pH, and then let it go back through your system, and then essentially re-neutralize your root zones again.
You make the
So,
adjustments as needed. So what about shoot, I forgot what I'm gonna say now. The temperature of the water with the water pumps activating and it's sending, you know, the circulating motion. Does it exponentially get greater, the temperature, until it hits a certain threshold? And if it does, like say a sunny day on the rooftop, right?
Yeah.
You got a vertical grow, the pump's already heating the water up. Okay, the environment just kicks it up another notch. How do you guys regulate that?
So you should have a chiller, you know. The biggest thing is just reducing the water temperature and just having something that the water can essentially circulate and reduce in temperature again.
Got it.
Well, you know, simple answer, chiller. If you don't have a chiller, then you got to use passive methods, you know. So warmer air at the top, cooler air at the bottom, especially if you have coverings or things that you can kind of submerge your pipes in so that it stays in colder temperatures. That's a great way to do it. Or even insulations. Coloring your pipes, you know, so that they're essentially reflective and non-absorbent for heat. So staying away from black, you know, using your white sprays that kind of reflect more of the light.
Okay.
Using things that can essentially reflect the light before it even touches your pipe to kind of reduce environmental temperatures.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know watering your plants with warm water was a bad thing.
So warm water is okay. It's when you get into the hot water.
It's like when that water's been sitting in that hose for a while, that first blast.
Oh, yeah,
all day.
that's
That's
hot
not
water.
good. That's hot water.
Yeah.
All right. Because that's not natural, right? When does fucking hot rain fall?
Exactly.
Only when the reggae band plays. Hot rain. Shout out. Hot rain. I don't even know anybody in the band. But yeah, fuck. I didn't know that. Good to know.
But like 75, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, you know, I wouldn't go any higher than like 79.
Like a
80.
warm shower. Yeah.
Yeah, something warm.
If you don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah.
That's my mentality. I'm like, ooh, shit, it's hot.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
I ain't
yeah.
watering my plants with that.
It's like, would
Yeah.
you put this, you know, I drink warm water because warm water is good for our digestion system.
Right,
But
right.
I'm not going to drink boiling hot
water.
water on a hot day, you know.
So refreshing. It's like, ooh, shit.
So put yourself as the plant. It's like,
Right.
like, what are you doing?
Even cold water, like, fuck, I don't want that poured over my head. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want that poured
Is
on
too
my
cold?
lap.
Too cold? Not good?
Yeah. I mean,
So unless
shock
you're
it.
unless you're shocking your plant, and this is towards later in the growth. But this is more. I wouldn't even say that this is practice. This is more speculative, and it's more the veteran, real old-time growers or professional growers that are into this kind of stuff. And that's shock treatment, and
Yeah.
that's for the the trichome quality essentially of your plant. You're freezing your trichomes in place with the water, so it helps you have a lot more when you come time to harvest and everything. And after you get through with your curings, you have I think they say like a 20 to 30% loss versus the like what is it up to like 45 to 50 to 60% loss of trichomes. So
Can you put fish in your hydroponic fucking thing underneath?
aquaponics?
Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
aquaponic. Yeah,
that's pretty much
aquaponic.
aquaponics. But yeah, you can grow anything, and in the fish themselves, they supply, as long as you give the plant substrate or some kind of floating stationary platform or something,
A place to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the roots are dangling into the water, but
Exactly.
underneath there, the fucking fish are living and happy and
Yep,
fucking
yep.
giving you natural fish poop water.
Exactly.
Right.
Fish shit, and
That's a good one, right? Fish
fish-
shit, nutrients and shit.
So fish shit
And shit.
nutrients is actually not a fertilizer.
Oh, what is it?
It's a bioenhancer.
But isn't it fish poop? So wouldn't it be fish manure?
It is fish manure that's
Yeah.
in it, but they are not a fertilizer. They
Oh.
consider themselves a bioenhancer for your microbe quality.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that
Nice.
because your fucking microbes like the fish poop, or what's
So
the difference?
Microbes are invigorated by fish poop.
Why
Microbes
is-
can be invigorated by any manure, your chicken manure.
They get excited
your
about
chicken-
all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, high nitrogen content.
Yeah.
But fish manure gives a broader array of beneficial microbes, essentially.
It's like,
And
a, it's like a superfood for them.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
it be easier soluble, right? It's easier to be soluble.
Is that because it's already wet?
Well, it's your the quality of your ammonium and everything. So, and you get urea. Urea comes from urine, fish are peeing and everything like that too. And that
What?
allows
Fish are peeing and everything?
and that allows the microbes
In the
to
ocean?
really. Oh yeah,
Nah, I'm just
that's why it's so
kidding.
salty. No. And it allows the microbes to kind of do their part, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. Urea, ammonia, ammonium. And then now it's in a usable form that the plants can easily take up.
Got you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I've seen that. That's why I thought it was curious, and I figured that was the purpose.
I mean, your dog can pee in your plant. You know, I've seen people pee.
So why does my
extra-
grass die when fucking my dog's piss in my yard?
Because that's an accumulation.
Because they're peeing in the
nitrogen.
same spot.
Territory.
Yeah.
He's just pissing in the same.
High accumulate if you dilute it though.
If
So
you rinse it away quickly
water-
enough?
Yeah, and you can actually tell the difference if you
Yeah.
water your. No, I don't like promote people water their lawn if they live in dry places because I think better to water the garden than the grass.
Right.
But if you were to water your lawn or you live somewhere windward side where you got a lot of rainfall and you could really see, you can see where the animals are peeing because
Yeah.
there's going to be more growth in those places. The grass is going to be a little bit taller. The weeds are going to
Yep.
be a little bit taller.
Just piss in your neighbor's
But it
lawn.
won't be-
Do him a favor.
But it won't be fucking yellow and dead. It'll be
Right.
fucking
Yep.
nice and green.
It's only if it's concentrated. You
Okay,
know?
so we were gonna say about water aversion. What'd you say? Is that what you said? Water aversion? Water, the plants that don't like it where it runs off the top.
Oh, hydrophobic.
Hydrophobic.
So
Water aversion, same thing. Hydrophobic. Jesus Christ.
hydrophobic. So
Yeah.
that is your media essentially being dried out. There's two ways. So your media is completely dried out to the point that it's bone dry.
Mhm.
You're not going to be able just to water that. That's you're gonna get the pebbles. It's
Yep.
gonna keep running off. You're gonna actually have to take your pot and just like when you get you ever get a brick of cocoa core?
Yes.
Nope.
and-
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Oh, so
shit.
cocoa core is your cocoa peat that you get. So it's a shredded coconut or full coconut husk if it's in chunks, you know,
Mhm.
and that's like a planting media. And it's just a sterile, strain substrate. It doesn't
Mhm.
hold microbes. It does little effect of holding pH. It just shit will run through it. You got to really regulate the system. That's why
Mhm.
they use in a lot of hydro.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
the cool thing about it is that when you get your cocoa, you have to soak it. If you don't soak it, it's a bitch to break up. And I've worked in nurseries, bro, where you like messing with that stuff. Like it's a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
So you soak it, you saturate it. You don't just saturate it real quick and pull it out. You let it sit in there for like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And it expands, and then
Yeah.
it makes it easier to break off and put in the pot. And then as it dries, it compresses again. And you're just watching that level, from it expanding and compressing. But yeah, if it gets to that point where it's not absorbing any water, just soak it for a little bit. You can
Mhm.
even do the old school and use a little bit of warm tap water and soak it in that so that while it's saturated in the heat helps break everything up and it's not going to affect your microbes. Your microbes like the heat a little bit, so they're going to get rejuvenated
Right.
too if they got stuck in there.
Right.
But that's how you do that. Yeah.
You don't have to like break up the soil. You could just, because it's in a pot, right? It's a small pot. It's like this big.
Mhm.
And I water it, and it just goes like to the edge. And mind you, this pot is filled to like almost the brim with dirt
Yeah.
or soil. I don't know. It's probably dirt.
So you can fork it,
Yeah,
you
just
can
make
you
pukas
can-
and shit.
Yeah, you can scrape it. You see like the top roots and stuff, and you can kind of like naturally help to prune those too. But most times, like 7 out of 10, you just need to let it soak for a little bit
Mhm.
and just absorb
It's
the
like
water.
submerge the whole pot.
So I usually take a bigger container or
Uh-huh.
like a Tupperware and fill it with water,
Mhm.
and then put the pot in the water and let it sit, and I'll just time it and watch for it to go. And you do the same thing where you pull it out, you let the excess water drain,
Mhm,
and then you can water it just to double check. I always like to say double tap, so you can double tap it with some extra water to make sure that it's flowing the way that it
Yeah.
should, and then that's how you know as like an end pat on the back or satisfaction that hey, I did this the right way,
Right,
and
right.
it's working, flowing properly. So.
What about like specifically like a succulent? Because you can overwater that shit. Yeah.
You can always overwater a succulent.
Yeah, like or easily
yeah.
overwater, I should say. You can easily overwater it. Is fucking aloe a fucking succulent technically?
Good question.
Aloe vera?
I think
But
it's
anyway,
more related to a succulent. Yeah,
'Cause
I
I-
used to work in a succulent nursery out in Waimanalo. Shout out to the guys at Giabonga and
Giabonga.
Nato Farms
Giabonga.
Nursery. Yeah, so they have a big succulent nursery going on, run by Auntie Carol. Very knowledgeable about the succulents. But
Mhm.
yeah, you can definitely overwater them when you're propagating your succulents. And you're waiting for them to root. They only need a little bit of moisture. They don't need you water your pots through to get them ready, but you're not keeping your sprinklers on and continuously
Mhm.
watering them like you might do other plants. They can handle the heat. They just like the humidity, so they absorb the moisture from the surrounding environment and utilize that. Just like nutrient-wise, similar to like orchids. They don't need a ton of nutrients. They run in the
Right.
realm of like 50 to fucking 120, 150 ppm of
Moisture.
mixed nutrients, you know, on a full balanced diet, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100 of nitrogen, low phosphates, a little bit of mid-level, midline of your potash, but then you got to have the calciums and stuff. So good realm, 125. But yeah, you know, a little bit of water, they're going to be very excited for you to get going. And old school, I always love when I see the aunties with the spray bottle with the water, you
Yeah.
know, and then they just hit it with that, and that's enough for watering it
For
through.
a few days.
Yep.
But so my succulent is the one that's dry that
Mhm.
just runs right off.
Okay.
So it's not. I feel like it's not getting any water. But then the aloe, I feel like one thing I gotta do is probably add more soil. But that one I fucking water it and the water just whoop straight out of the fucking pot.
Yeah.
It's like holy shit! Like no chance for it to even sit in there and absorb. Is that because I'm sure the lack of soil is one, but like if that's happening and you have enough soil, is that just because your soil is already too saturated?
If it's drying all the way out like that.
No,
and
if it's
beating.
like as soon as you water it, fucking like run. You can
Runs
see
right through.
water running through. Yeah, it runs right through.
Usually that's just because it hasn't absorbed the water yet. Even in like good optimum soil in a pot, you
Mhm.
know, if you water it, you'll see water start shooting through before you really notice that the water is accumulating and it's actually moisturizing.
So
the
water
soil.
coming out the bottom isn't necessarily a sign to stop. Then
So it is and it isn't. So it's a sign to stop when it's over accumulated and you've saturated your media.
Right.
But you have to also be able to check and tell, you know, if your media is fully saturated to begin with. And depending on the plant or the crop that you're growing,
Right.
it might not need to be fully saturated. So just
Right.
a small amount of water is necessary.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
it's a big difference between a small amount of water and then you watch it just go off and it's like, okay, that's good enough. Hopefully it absorbed in the sides.
Whatever it caught.
underneath.
Yeah.
right, and that should be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I shouldn't necessarily worry.
If it's a dryland plant or if it's a plant like, you know, similar to a succulent or
Mhm.
something like that where it doesn't need a lot of water quality, then, you know, just do what you can to make sure that it's absorbing the moisture. But if it's doing, I always tell people, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mhm.
So
Right.
if it's living and it's happy with what you're doing, you don't need to correct it. You know, if you have one that looks completely different and it's thriving, then you just duplicate
Do it
that
that
process.
you're doing
yeah.
for now. Holy shit, that's a fat fucking joint. What is that now?
Fuck, I don't know. It's like a bunch of thrown inside.
Oh, a salad.
Yep, it's a salad.
Oh god damn it! All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
So,
how long have you been farming for?
So I do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't say I'm much of a farmer. I'm more a scientist. And
okay.
Scientist, agro, pharma tech guy, you know, botanist, plant enthusiast, horticulture nerd, whatever you like call it.
Well, how
I
did you
do-
get into the nutrient business and the
Nutrient
science
business?
of all this shit? Because it's not a very like
So
something everyone gets into every day.
I am a real big component on natural medicines and plant-based medicines. That's
Mhm.
kind of my upbringing and background. When I got older, ran away from this shit forever, but eventually went to school to learn about botany, agropharmatech, which essentially is everything from seed to medicine,
Mhm.
or nutraceutical or supplement, or even food pharmacy.
Uh-huh.
Did some ag stuff for farming, you know, diversifying across the field. And that's where really got the jump. I was already doing things on my own, and I just wanted to put the science behind it or
Right.
next to it. Did some research under the University of Hawaii Manoa system, underneath Windward Community College, investigating, you know, microbes, investigating different types of plants like orchids and things for their different effects, watching how they grow, doing some biomedicinal garden stuff, and then just the, you know, that little scratch turned into an open sore of just
yeah.
different knowledge and things that kind of coincided together.
So you have degrees in this shit.
I don't like to talk about it all the time,
Oh.
but
Well,
I have
toot your own horn, bro.
I have advanced certificates for agropharmatech and botanical pharmacognosy and plant food production and technology.
Hey.
I actually left Manoa in 2014 and started consulting for the cannabis industry out of state. So I
Mhm.
was building laboratories. I was only about a year short of getting my bachelor's of science.
Oh,
I've
so you don't
never-
have it. Sorry, I
I've
didn't mean
never
to.
gone back to school. It's not a big deal.
All
I
right,
am,
all right.
from what I've been told, I'm Sheldon. I just happen to be one of those weird people that
Yeah.
didn't necessarily need education.
Yeah,
behind
you
It's a
it.
just got-
formality, dude. It's
Yeah.
just like how much papers you did. You know,
Yeah.
what you did, what they told you to do to get that fucking license.
No.
It doesn't mean anything, you know, as far as what you know and what's applied. In fact, your application is 10 times more valuable than the motherfuckers who just got a paper degree. You know, you've actually applied it.
And it happens, you know. I did research with guys like that. And I have brainiac friends, and they're just like me, and they got the degree and stuff. But it was where the aptitude was, you know. Industry started calling, and I saw that, you know, I was at that turnstile in academia where I was pushing research. I, towards the end, was thinking about, you know, pediatric oncology, going to do research at the UH Cancer Center, all this stuff. And just, you know, door closed, window open, and it was like, well, crap. I've
both
always,
noble fucking professions.
Hey,
you know?
yeah, fuck.
Like,
yeah.
I can work with plants, and like, oh, you like work with science for cannabis, you know? And that wasn't the first thing. I got invited to do anti-tumoral studies on cannabis for health systems, you know, out of California and stuff like that. But that was my early years of my undergrad. So I took that as, oh shit, the DEA knows that I'm doing research and I know too much about plants.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to I don't want to go and entice this, you know. So
how long were you in school before you stopped?
Wow, too long. Got serious and really stuck through it 2009 to 2014.
Damn.
Then left, started consulting, came back, did some work with the Department of Health for roundtable discussions about microbiologics towards cannabis when the cannabis med regs came up here.
Right.
And then, actually before the pandemic was doing cannabis and hemp testing for a local lab. You know, pandemic, that kind of left another opportunity where a door closed, but the window was always open and kind of allowed me the time to veer back through it of, what do I really care about? I care about La'al, you know, I care about the Lepo, I care about the Aina. Maybe I should do my part to be, you know, promote sustainability. So Sustainable Newts, was born from La'al Laboratories Hawaii, which is the name of the DBA of our actual company and manufacturer name. And that was our whole thing, was the premise of everything biotech, analytical, corresponding for plants, and, you know, venturing for further progression. Yeah.
So La'al Labs is a place where other people can go to test their stuff, or is that something that you guys set up like?
So that was our original premise, was to set up to do that. So we did the crowdfunding and everything. It just ended up not being where we were going to go to and sit for just analytical testing. So we made it more of a consulting. So we consulted whether you're growing cannabis, other herbs or edibles, or you're growing food crops or ornamentals. And, you know, sometimes it wasn't even plant related. I got stuff involving microbes. People were interested in learning how to brew.
Composting.
Yeah, composting, brewing, you know, making your own alcohol, brewing your own beer, stuff like that. So I would talk about, you know,
You're
fermentation.
teaching the concepts.
Exactly. So that's kind of, you know, where I've kind of gone and veered off, and I've done the snake like everybody else to get to where I am. But yeah, I'm one of those few people that, you know, I'm 100% honest. That's like my flaw and my greatest thing about me. If you ask me a question, I'm gonna tell you the truth, and I'm gonna let you know if I don't know all of it. But I'm generally there to help. You know, most times people, you know, we get Facebook page, we get Instagram page. You know, I write articles online. You want to sell your product, you want your product to do good, but I want people to want my product and to harness it for its powers or its benefits for the environment, being eco-friendly as well as for being organic for your plants. I would rather give, you know, all of me to anybody wanting to grow, whether they're someone's tutu gardening, you know, somebody who is, whether, you know, I tell my cousins this too, just because you like grow cannabis doesn't mean that all you got to be is just some dude growing illegal cannabis. It's a legal industry now, but it still takes knowledge, you know, and experience. So being able to give to those people, whichever way they want to go, they can utilize it. So, and I mean, we are what we eat, we are what surrounds us. So why not be a positive influence on that?
And my body is made of 100% toxins, but it is really it is really refreshing to have people who fucking know a lot but are willing to say they don't know. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
that's number one.
Some people, they cannot fucking let go of the fact that you don't know it all. You know what I mean? And it's cool to not know it. You know, like, I don't know is sometimes an acceptable answer as long as you're willing. One thing I learned is you might not always know the answer, but you know where to find it.
Oh yeah.
And it sounds like fucking you and what you have going on, you're able to dig into the fucking questions. It's like if somebody asks you something you don't know, You know what I mean? Like you're set up and kind of in that nerdy world and fucking like I'm gonna fucking look into it, bro. I don't fucking know for this fucking guy.
And that's what it always is. Is like you never know who you're helping, you know, or
Yeah.
who or what they're using something for, and or you know nutritional needs or anything else have you. So it's like I'm gonna give you the best of me and what I got, you
Right.
know. So hopefully you benefit in the
Mhm.
long run. And I have friends that own farms in the mainland, and they've asked me random questions and advice, and I give it to them cold-hearted, open-heartedly, cold-heartedly, not caring what they do with it. And when they're successful, it's like I don't need anything from you. Like that's awesome. I'm happy that you are farming and you're doing everything and shit's working out great.
Right.
And I can always go back to that memory that brother had a plant question,
Right.
and now brother is running a full-scale, multi-acreage farm. Like
Right.
kudos to you, 100%. So
And that brings you back to one of the first things we're talking about, preaching sustainability.
Yep.
You've left a mark in his head at which that was the foundation of which he was learning from. So call it biasness. I mean, call it whatever you want, being biased or whatever. He comes into that aspect bias. So everything he's going to learn, it's going to be around your teachings.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So you're teaching sustainability. He's looking down this sustainability train, but he now has that learning curve that you taught him. So the amount of good, given he has that interest, the amount of good he can do for that same philosophy just carries on generation and generation. And expecting nothing in return gives people the motivation to go and fucking, he must be really, really, it must be really important to him. He's willing to give me all that information for free.
Mhm.
And that is, the right thing to do. Sometimes, I mean, we all got livings and stuff, but, to be like, hey, this guy really, he's going to take this shit and run with it. Okay,
yeah.
fucking selflessness, Yeah.
And
Good
that's
on
what
you, man.
That's what it's all about,
Yep.
You care more, I always like leave people, whether I leave a comment or I answer an email or whatever. It's like happy growing, always refer happy plants, and
Right.
even some people trip and like you talk to people that know me, and it's like that's just how your mindset is. You like everything to be happy. You like take care as much as you can,
Right.
And if I can make your garden a little bit greener, a little bit more pleasant, like hell yeah, power to you for asking a question. Especially in a world where nowadays it's frowned upon to ask questions, or you're laughed at. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Crazy.
so many trolls that I see, and I belong to so many freaking groups, from Sustainable Newts or just as myself, and 50,000 members for cannabis growing groups all across the board, whether you're expert, novice, whatever in between, and you're giving exchange of knowledge. And people are rude, and laughing and mock people, and it's like, bro, like he doesn't
Doesn't fit
know.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like read a book. It's like he probably read a book already. He don't get it. Like no big deal, Just explain to him what his question
We
is.
all started there, so
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
judge people, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just trolls, bro. The internet has created a fucking place like that.
And
You know what I mean?
my favorite is the diagnosers, the ones that will diagnose your plant problems from a picture with no information. Like, help me, my plant's dying. That's all the post says. And then you
CalMag.
see- Bruh, yeah,
Here's a picture. Here's a picture from my flip phone. Go,
I mean,
let me know
I'm
what's up.
guilty of that, but I will ask questions to narrow it down. And if I can't fucking nail it, then I'm like, hey, come in. You know what I mean? Come in. If you really want to dial it in, bring a soil sample. If you think it's a pest, bring a sample of that plant. And we'll try and diagnose it more. But then I'm not afraid to say I don't fucking know.
Bruh, yep.
Sorry, Auntie, I don't know what's eating your how. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I don't know what's doing this. But you may want to go check these guys out.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I can do for you at that point in time. I'm still learning. you
Is
know?
there only that one testing place here on Hawaii still, or are there multiple like laboratory testing, like fucking down to your like chromosomes, all that shit, like the kind of shit
So you
That's required.
have you have Medcan.
Uh-huh.
I apologize. Medcan, Steep Hill,
Yes.
and
What-
what's AOS? AOS Labs is run under Clinical Labs, and
So
they
they-
do
Okay.
cannabinoid, pesticide, solvent, microbial, foreign
Uh-huh.
matter detection.
It's the IAO one, yeah?
Yeah. Of
Okay,
all
that's good
products.
because I really only thought that was just Steep Hill.
See, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were
For
the
a
only
while,
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
for-
a while they were. And I mean, I like.
They were first,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. And in many states, when I was consulting in Nevada, bruh, they were there, you know. But
Steep Hill?
Steep Hill, you know.
It's actually Spectrum Analytical Labs now.
So Spectrum
oh.
was who they were.
Yeah, they changed
And
it back.
then, oh, did
Oh,
they
they
really?
Yeah.
They, you know, they did a deal to
Mhm.
partner with Steep Hill, and that's where they absorbed the name because, you know, you get all the stuff, all
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
SOPs,
yeah,
how
yeah.
to test. You don't have
Right.
to come up and write your own stuff
Right.
and methodology. So, but I mean, shout
Well,
out
I know
to
what
those
business
guys. They
takeovers
work
are
hard. Brother that started Steep Hill was one black guy from Berkeley with dreadlocks. You know,
Nice.
he's a molecular scientist. Like, that's what it's all about. You know,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So.
Well, I knew they were like a mainland company, but yeah, I didn't know they were more like. I thought it was like mainland and here were like the two locations, or
I'm
California
bottom line.
and here.
Two in every state, pretty much in the mainland.
Damn.
And one in Hawaii. Yeah, that's damn near. I
Well,
mean,
there's
Oh,
three out
shit.
there now. There's one in Kona, and I believe one in Maui.
so it's
Wow.
the same guys. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
satellites.
Oh,
So
okay.
yep, because
Oh, no shit, huh?
there's shipping regulations for
Yeah,
testing.
that-
You've never lived unless you tried to get on a plane with cannabis samples or hemp samples and have the federal police and TSA let you know that you're not crossing. So
yeah.
Oh shit.
I've never been told I can't get through.
see, hey, when you have licenses and you're openly trying to do this stuff and
Yeah.
the regulations are in your favor and they tell you they don't know, I mean
Yeah.
that's bureaucracy right there,
Yeah.
101.
Right.
They're not paid enough.
Bait and switch. Hey, what? You can come through. Nah, we never got the memo. It's like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
How are we supposed to test it if we can't transport? So they, you know, extract so that they can do certain like solvent or pesticide analysis back here, but they can do some stuff, remedial stuff there. So it's pretty
Yeah.
much just a logistics transport.
Yeah,
hub.
that
yeah.
red tape's so fucking firm in
Bruh,
that
it is.
aspect. I don't know why,
But it's all bullshit.
Well, fuck yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
shit,
fuck.
man.
God damn it. I could put a potato or a tomato in my bag. No, actually,
You
they
can't
don't.
really
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
really can't.
Depends on where you're going.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if you- and if
Hawaii's
you
different
got-
because they got like agricultural checks and,
Yeah.
but like inner island, I mean,
Nothing.
yeah, you can travel with dried mango. Back and forth. Why can't you travel with like dried cannabis flowers?
Well, it depends. you can and you can't. So it depends if
Mhm.
you're the one that gets caught. Because supposedly TSA isn't looking for it, but if they
Right.
find it, then they gonna mess
Yeah,
with
Then,
it.
yeah.
So yes.
Be cool, TSA
But,
guys. Fuck,
yeah.
come on, bro. I know you guys are the brothers out there with the Toyota trucks, the fucking Tacomas. I see all you guys' cars parked in the parking garages. You guys just be cool, bro. Most of they usually are.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend MedCan Labs. They're in IAEA too. They do a great job on testing. I
Mhm.
know the lab director, Devin. Devin knows his stuff. You know, I give him mad credit. Their team works very hard. They, you know, they can do it all. They'll do your analysis. They give you proper feedback. They're honest with you about shit. They're not
Nice.
gonna sugarcoat it. They're not gonna like mess with your stuff. It's as nerdy as a nerdy person you're looking for a science
Awesome.
cannabis
Yeah, yeah.
testing lab.
That's exactly
They
who you
gonna-
want doing it.
Needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So how much actual like plant matter or material shit do fucking they need to run like a test on like your flower say or like
So depends on your test.
Yeah.
If you're talking like potency, you know, your cannabinoid ratios, a gram of flour, a
Mhm.
gram of, you know, gram to a half a gram of concentrate or edible or whatever, that's going to be enough to do it.
Mhm.
If you're talking like microbials, pesticides, solvents, stuff like that, or you want to do the full kabang of testing, you're going to need at least like anywhere from 3 to 6 grams. The labs will let you know, depending on their method, how much they need, because
Right.
it starts, you know, one way top down. I
Yeah.
got a bud.
how much they gotta use
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
I got a homogenized sample. Homogenized sample means that I got, you know, a whole sample of a bunch of stuff. We randomly selected. That's how you want to get it. I don't mean to air quote random, but it is random. You take, you know, if it's one a bag, you're reaching in the bag in multiple parts. You're grabbing from all over the bag so that if it's different, you can get a homogenized sample that's going to show you what the togetherness is or what the
Right.
whole is of what you're testing.
Right.
But essentially, you take that, you're grinding all that material down into fractions, and that fractions goes to the testing, whether in what department or what specific test it's going to
Right.
go to. And then they're prepared in aliquots, whether they have to be extracted with a solvent like a ethanol or acetone or chloroform or what have you, or they're being directly run, you know, through an assay or something like that. And then it gives you your feedback. You know, it'll dry it out, give you moisture content, let you know what the relative, you know, moisture of your material is, give you cannabinoid ratios. They can give you terpenoids. They can let you know what kind of solvents you got in there. for those guys that are hiding solvents, it's always detectable in a laboratory. They can pick it up to a certain, ppm fraction or parts per billion even.
Right.
So
And you're talking about concentrates in that sense, yeah,
And-
like those
and-
kind of things.
Yep.
Edibles, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Exactly. So everything is important, and then same thing for pesticides and mycotoxins,
Yeah.
you want to see, not just the ones that's going to pick up on a liquid chromatography, mechanism or mass spec. You want to see what's dried out completely and what's able to be utilized wet so that you can get a full array of what's in there. Some pesticides
Gotcha.
are detectable one way, some are only detectable another way.
right.
So yeah.
What's your take on not regulation, but your moral standings on test regulations? Like, it's okay.
It's a moral question.
No, yeah. Like I mean, is it important to you? So, heavy metals or yeast and mold, which one is more of a priority to test for, in your opinion?
So I think all of them are.
If you had a designated, all right, here's
So let's put it like this. So I mentioned before that hemp and cannabis, relatable, are bioremediators. Then
Mhm.
essentially both plants are going to be able to suck excess heavy metals out of your media.
Okay.
So depending on what you're growing, that's where heavy metals come from. They're either coming from your media substrate directly, like your planting media, or they're coming from the newts that you're using,
Right.
because newts can have trace amounts of heavy metals in them.
Mhm,
So
So if you wanted to adjust thresholds, like passable thresholds,
mhm.
what would you expand and what would you retract? Heavy metal thresholds or microbial thresholds?
Oh, if you're trying to pass your test?
Yes. Like, if you could control the regulation on how we test, would you increase the thresholds on microbials or heavy metals?
So I think there needs to be more of a study for microbials so they can define a better threshold level for detection, because not all microbes are bad.
Yep.
But we do screen for bad ones too, or they screen when I used to do those
Right.
formalities. But
Say aspergillus comes up, right?
Exactly.
Fail.
Know.
Right.
Certain ones like that, salmonella fail.
E. coli.
What is it? What's the
Depends
first
on the
one you
E.
said?
coli, salmonella.
What is the first one you said? Aspergillus?
Oh, yep.
Aspergillus.
What is that? Is that not bad for you?
So aspergillus is a fungi.
Is that bad for you?
It is bad for you.
Oh, okay. So you shouldn't
Um,
have that then.
So they can cause a lot of them, and low immune system people can cause upper respiratory illnesses or other illnesses depending on what type of aspergillus. So you have like Aspergillus flavus, Niger.
Molds?
These are molds, Aspergillus niger is what I was talking about, like the black mold.
That
Yeah,
black
so
mold,
it's
yeah,
like that
yeah,
Black
yeah.
Death,
The Black Death.
Yeah, fuck.
And some Aspergillus isn't bad, and
Right.
it's ubiquitous and it's out there,
Right,
So
right.
that's where they have like screening. Salmonella is like an automatic fail.
Yeah.
E.
Right.
coli, depending on the E. coli. If it's a general environmental E. coli, you're not going to fail unless the lab doesn't have a designation between what E. coli is what. But if it's like E. coli, H1, N7 or 9.7 or whatever, that's going to be more of like a pathogenic strain. That's really where it's going to hit you.
Like a
as,
homie just
a
farted in your
problem.
trim bin, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Hey, bruh, I mean, depending on where you are in the world,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
all about cultural practices and what's going on. And just like working in your ag field, they may not wash their hands when they go lure.
Yeah.
That's just what happens,
Right.
You sick, it's going to transport to the plant, whatever. If you carrying stuff, like that can happen to a certain degree.
Virgins used to
So-
run naked through the hemp fields back in the day.
Yeah, get some butt crack juice on top of your nugs.
Yeah, but anyway.
And that's how you get into mycotoxins. So
Right.
you have microbes like your fungi and yeast that have detectable forms that they're viable and you see them there or you can read them in a machine. But then you also have mycotoxins that let you know the residue footsteps of what they secreted or left behind in your plant material or
Right.
in your product. So you're going to know if like alpha toxins or illegal toxins or whatever was present at one time or another. And depending on that threshold, they know based off of, already set bureaucratic standards and analytical standards what's considered healthy for human animal consumption and what's considered like straight up detrimental and contaminant. So
Are the thresholds for like what gets a pass and what doesn't get a pass the same as like the amount of level of toxins they allow for tobacco?
See, that's a good question. So depending on the state, they adopted botanical. They pick botanical methodology essentially for botanicals and botanical products that correlate. So they look at when certain states they looked at like tobacco, herbals for like teas and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and then they look for like food crops, and then they look for products that are made for food crops. And then extracts, supplements, and homeopathic.
Okay.
So between all these categories, they kind of pulled regulations together to make cannabis regulations. So some states, they really, like Colorado, Washington, California, they really did like the Bureau of Cannabis Control. They did the testing, they did the research for years, even while the industry was underway. So they have it down. That's why I love California for the fact that they're constantly updating the regs. And I have people
based on new research and new findings and
exactly,
yeah.
and what people get away with.
like how science is supposed to work.
Hawaii, you never hear about a recall. California, they have full wide recalls like it would be milk off a shelf, and it's like, oh, this cannabis product was tainted or was contaminated, or the test was inconsistent, between various labs that might have blind tested it. So then they recall all the products, anything made from that cannabis material, essentially.
Whoa,
And
that's a fucking
quality.
bombshell, bro.
And
I just fucking had a fucking brain lightning bolt connection, but I'm not gonna say it. I'll talk to you guys about it after.
And you could beat this, and it's not necessarily beating the system, but it's like proper quality and checks, just like you're driving. What's the steps for driving? You get your key, you get in the car, you put your seatbelt on, then you turn on the car.
Right.
And then you go. You're watching the gas, you're watching your other meters on the dashboard and stuff, and you're driving the speed limit. It's the same thing for cannabis testing. I grow my cannabis, quality of my material that I'm getting. If I have cuttings or tissue culture, or if I have seeds, where did they come from? How is the quality where it came from? What's the quality of the material that I just received? Do I have a report to verify that? I just grew my cannabis. I want to know, unless I'm breeding, how many males do I have in here? I need to check everything to begin to make sure that it's not Hermy or not a male, so I can reduce my waste time for what I'm growing.
Right. So,
And then it's the quality of what you're producing. If you're growing hemp, you gotta check your cannabinoid ratios throughout the life cycle of your plant, not just when it starts flowering, but even as it optimizes to get the flowering, because it's gonna let you know with those verifying ratios as the plant grows. You're gonna see the trend that
Right.
shit, THC might peak. We might need to harvest this early.
Right.
Versus what does everybody do? I'm gonna leave this in the ground for like 3 weeks past due, and oh shit, I popped hot on the 0.3% THC,
Yes.
and they're surprised. It's like, why did you not, R&D or test? And
how do you
quality
test
control?
it before there's actually flower? Then you bring in leaves and shit.
So
biopsy?
leaves, before flower, leaves, stem cuttings, things like that. Once it starts to pre-flower cuttings, and everything is random from a crop. You're going through, you're making your grid or your square, you set up your quadrants, and then you pick randomized per each quadrant. I did this, on farms up on the North Shore and stuff. I recommended this to out of state. Like,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is quality control. This
That's
is
how-
they
yeah,
do it.
quality.
Well, you would think that mass cultivations, they would actually have that fucking already figured out, like even tissue cultures,
Yeah.
all of that shit, integrating that into hemp, doing proper phenotype huntings and genotype huntings, like find out like how you doing cannabinoid testing too. Oh shit, it fucking came up hot over here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's run this clone, let's tissue culture this guy because it gave us optimal test results and realistic timing, you know what I mean? So it didn't test hot for one, so we know it's gonna fly, and then just micropropagate it.
And it's all budget. The big boys behind the business, not the small farmers. They have equipment in house, so they're doing remedial
Yes.
testing or some other stuff that they
Right.
can do. Otherwise, they sending it out. They're on it when they send it out. Everything's
Right.
on a timely fashion. Mind you, this all has to do with the lab, because you got to have a lab you can trust. You got to have people that you can kind of like relate to. They're gonna give you the good shit. You get good warm and fuzzies from them. And a lot of labs, I've heard this, from going from conventions and stuff in the mainland, and people are like, I don't trust the fucking lab because they gonna do this and that, and they're promoting, the cannabis
Right.
dispensaries that have the better quality buds, and it's like, brah, those aren't the right labs though.
Yeah.
You gotta find a lab that you can go talk story with,
Unbiased,
and
fucking, yeah,
he gonna
yeah.
tell you. He gonna tell you what it is. I've walked into crops and I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here? And they're like, oh, bro, it looks good and this and that. And it's like, no, like, okay, I don't like shit on anybody. It looks great. This is your hard work and your effort. But it's like, you have these microbe infections, you have this, you have that. Your quality is your own.
Right.
You got to do it.
Uh-oh. Some action outside. Beautiful Waipahu.
Yep.
Roll down the gate. Roll down the gate. Nah.
Nah. it adds character to the
I don't know the way those two
podcast.
guys.
It always does.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a drift contest over here last time. It was like,
Oh, for real.
Soon.
it's
Right
cool,
next to
man.
Ting's place too.
Huh?
Oh, it's next to Ting's place?
Yeah.
What is
Shout out
that?
to Ting's place. It's a little bar. Shout out to Ting's place.
What is it? It's a bar. That's
Yeah,
cool.
Thursday night fights every week. It's all
Oh,
good.
shit.
No, I'm just joking. Dude. I don't know. I'm just
All right,
Shout
is
out to Ting's.
Is that last joint done?
No, I'm saying it's done. It's burning hot.
All right, let's fucking wrap it up then.
All right,
Fucking,
man.
let's call it a night. Fucking, well, fuck.
Jason.
Yeah.
Mahalo, Lord.
Sustainable
Yeah.
nutrients on fucking Instagram. Yeah, what's your website? You have a website?
Yep, hinutes.com, HINUTES.com. That's our website. Otherwise, at hashtag sustainable newts, one word, on Instagram and Facebook.
And then there's La'au Laboratories.
Yep, so Sustainable Newts is a DBA of La'au Laboratories Hawaii. That's
Gotcha.
our main company. But
Mhm.
yeah, Sustainable Newts for everything that's ag or sustainable related for organic nutrient products and proper upcycling of minerals so we can benefit and save and preserve and conserve our environment and natural ecosystems. Yeah.
And where can people find your products?
Currently, our products are all online on our web store, hinutes.com/shop. Otherwise, we're looking at bringing into more shops and stores like you guys here at OGS. So, yeah.
This guy here.
Awesome.
I just hang out here.
Yeah.
Nah, right on. Thank you for fucking coming in, man.
Hey,
It was a
Mahalo,
fucking awesome
yeah,
conversation. Fucking super informative, bro.
Hopefully, I didn't bore or put anybody to sleep. And
Nah,
everybody was engaged, with this and
Yeah.
watch. So, yep.
Right on.
People are going to love it.
And then fucking come down, check out. What is this place called again?
Wahoo Garden Supply,
you do it.
94150
You do
Leo
it.
Leo Street, Waipahu, Hawaii, 96797.
That's right.
Right across the old city mill. Now it's the iTrampoline and Waipahu Lawn Equipment.
Yeah. And fucking come sail away fucking CrossFit.
Jump shit, man. Jump shit.
Yeah. All right. Fucking.
All right, guys. Thank you
Peace.
so much.
Hey, Keola.